Welcome back, everyone. Tonight, we're stepping into the brutal world of medieval winters. Picture a landscape consumed by endless white, the air cold enough to sting with every breath. For people living in the Middle Ages, this wasn't a scene from a story. It was the reality of life during the dead of winter. Without proper shelter, survival was not guaranteed. Before we get into it, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. Feel free to drop your location and local time in the comments below. It's always great to connect before diving in. Now, let's begin. The world we're exploring tonight is nothing like the warmth of modern homes. There are no thermostats, no insulated walls, no weather alerts. Medieval winters were severe. The land turned cold and barren, and heavy snowfall could arrive without warning. For farmers, who depended entirely on the land for their livelihood, preparation was everything. Once the snow came down, there was no retreating to comfort. You were at the mercy of the weather. For a medieval farmer, winter survival wasn't passive, it demanded strategy. The very first step was constructing adequate shelter. Not a comfortable one, but a functional one. It had to hold up against wind and snow, retain heat, and protect not just the family but the animals as well. Shelter construction during winter was never about luxury. It was about making it through the next storm and coming out the other side with your household, your livestock, and your crops still intact. So how did medieval farmers approach this challenge? The answer wasn't always straightforward. Survival meant working with what nature provided: wood, stone, clay, earth, and the steady heat of a central hearth. These farmers were resourceful, turning simple materials into practical solutions. But construction alone wasn't enough. Maintaining those structures through an unpredictable season required constant attention and adaptability. The homes they built weren't just places to rest. They were, quite literally, instruments of survival. When a storm rolled in, the skies darkening, snow beginning to fall, the ground already frozen solid, a medieval farmer would find himself at the entrance of his modest home, working quickly to secure it. These weren't ordinary snowstorms. They could bury a structure within hours. Every blizzard raised the same set of urgent questions. Would the roof hold? Would the animals survive the night? Would the family wake up in the morning? These concerns shaped the way shelters were built, maintained, and reinforced throughout the coldest months. In the early medieval period, most farmers built with locally sourced, natural materials: wood, stone, thatch, and earth. The simplicity of those materials, however, didn't reflect the complexity of their purpose. A proper shelter needed to block the cold, withstand repeated storms, and provide a safe, enclosed space for both people and animals. Small and modest in appearance, these homes were often timber-framed with walls reinforced by thatch, wattle, or packed mud. Practical, yes, but also thoughtfully constructed. The thatched roof is a good example. At first glance, a roof made of straw might not inspire confidence against a winter blizzard. But when properly built and maintained, it performed remarkably well. As snow accumulated on top, it actually contributed to the insulation rather than undermining it. The thick thatch layers trapped heat inside the home, while the snow above acted as an additional barrier against the wind. It wasn't a flawless system. Poorly maintained thatch could leak or cave under excessive snow, but when done correctly, it was a reliable and natural method for managing the cold. Back inside, the most important feature of any medieval home was the hearth. As the storm intensified outside, the hearth provided not just warmth but light during the long, dark winter nights. It was where meals were prepared, where wet clothes were dried, and where the entire household gathered. It is difficult to overstate the role the hearth played. Without it, the home was simply four walls trapping cold air. With it, survival became possible. Families would spend long hours near the fire, letting the warmth settle in, sharing stories, and drawing comfort from each other's company. But the warmth was always limited. A modest fire in a structure with thin walls, drafty openings, and minimal insulation could only do so much. Walls reinforced with mud or wattle helped reduce wind penetration, but they weren't always reliable. Cracks formed, drafts persisted, and leaks were a constant problem in many village homes. The hearth was essential, but it was never enough on its own. Everything around it, the walls, The roof, the layout of the space, had to work together to keep the cold outside and the heat in. There were no double-glazed windows or insulated doors, only the patchwork of materials that nature provided. Still, the medieval farmer made do, and when it came to surviving the blizzards that could bury entire villages under feet of snow, survival often meant getting creative with very little. You would likely have built a shelter that was partially underground, taking advantage of the Earth's natural insulation. Digging down into the ground offered a level of warmth impossible to achieve by simply building above it. The surrounding earth acted as a buffer, keeping the interior of the shelter warmer than the freezing temperatures outside. The walls of your home might be a combination of stone and mud, built not just for structural stability, but to retain the heat that the fire generated. Stone walls, though cold to the touch at first, held warmth far longer than wood or thatch, providing a steady, gradual heat throughout the day and night. The earth and stone kept the cold at bay, but your firewood, so carefully prepared and rationed, was what truly kept you alive. It's easy to think of firewood as just a practical resource. But in medieval times, it was far more than that. It was a lifeline. Gathering and storing firewood was one of the most critical tasks of the year, completed long before the first snowfall arrived. Without enough wood, there was no way to heat the shelter, prepare food, or keep the animals warm. In many ways, firewood was the unsung hero of winter survival. As you settle into your shelter, listening to the wind howl outside, the warmth from the hearth feels more valuable than ever. You and your family gather close, the fire crackling in the background. There is a sense of security here, even as the storm rages on outside. A reminder that despite the brutal cold and unpredictable weather, you are not entirely at the mercy of nature. You have adapted, built, and found ways to endure in this harsh world. But survival isn't just about the shelter itself. It's about the way you use the land, the environment, and the materials around you. The roof, the walls, the fire, everything works together in a delicate balance that allows you to ride out the storm. As the snow continues to fall, you understand that while the shelter may not be perfect, it is the best you can manage with what you have. And tonight, that is enough. As the storm rages outside, the air inside your shelter is thick with the scent of burning wood. The fire crackles, its warmth pushing back the chill seeping in through the gaps in the walls. Your thoughts inevitably return to the central question: how did medieval farmers construct shelters capable of withstanding not only heavy snow, but the punishing cold of fierce winter storms? Building a shelter wasn't simply about blocking out the cold. It was about ensuring that a family could endure in a space that was both functional and structurally sound against dangers that could arrive without warning. The importance of a well-built shelter in medieval times cannot be overstated. Without one, survival rates dropped sharply. Families depended on their homes to protect them not only from snow, but from freezing winds that could turn a blizzard into a fatal event. A key element in medieval shelter construction was the combination of materials, wood, stone, and earth, blended together in ways that appear simple but were remarkably effective when properly applied. Stone, for instance, was commonly used for foundations and lower walls. Its natural density helped retain interior warmth and offered protection against driving wind. But it wasn't solely about structural reinforcement. It was equally about insulation. Walls were frequently packed with mud or clay, materials that sealed gaps and created a barrier between the warm interior and the freezing exterior. The practice of building with the land was far from new. One of the more remarkable aspects of medieval shelter construction was how farmers used the earth itself to their advantage. Many medieval homes were partially dug into the ground, a technique known as earth sheltering, rooted in the need for consistent warmth. The earth, as it turns out, is an excellent insulator. The deeper into the ground you go, the more stable the temperature becomes. Even in the depths of winter, the ground below remained several degrees warmer than the freezing air above. This approach may seem straightforward in theory, but it was an intelligent solution for farmers dealing with severe winters. Digging into the earth to create a home meant tapping into a natural resource capable of regulating temperature. This underground design allowed a modest fire to heat the entire structure through the coldest months. That said, challenges did exist. Water could seep in, creating dampness, and ventilation was a persistent concern in earth-sheltered homes. But the overall advantages were clear, and many medieval farmers relied on this method to endure the harshest winters. Then there were the roofs. A medieval roof had to withstand far more than ordinary rainfall. It had to bear the weight of accumulated snow and ice. The thatched roof, commonly associated with rustic countryside cottages, was a vital component of these homes. Its function, however, went well beyond visual appeal. It was a practical solution for retaining heat and shedding snow. A widespread misconception about thatched roofs is that they are inherently poor at keeping out the elements. In reality, when properly maintained, a thatched roof is highly effective at both insulating a home and allowing snow to slide off naturally. Constructing a thatch roof involved layering straw, reed, or other grasses to form thick, dense coverings that acted as natural insulators. When snow accumulated on top, it added yet another layer of protection, functioning almost like a second roof. This design, however, carried its own risks. Excessive snow buildup could cause a thatched roof to collapse under the pressure, a danger that loomed over every heavy storm. But medieval farmers were resourceful. They learned to maintain their roofs consistently, inspecting for weak points, repairing damaged thatch, and reinforcing the structure with additional materials to ensure it could hold up under strain. Another defining feature of these medieval shelters was the placement of the hearth. Though it may seem like a minor detail today, the hearth was in fact the core of the home. In medieval times, a fire served as more than a light source. It was the primary heat supply, a cooking space, and often the sole source of warmth during the most bitter months of winter. The hearth was typically positioned at the center of the home, with a chimney or flue designed to allow smoke to escape without releasing too much of the precious heat along with it. There is something quietly profound about how medieval farmers understood the role of the hearth. It wasn't just the fire itself, it was the daily ritual of keeping it alive, stoking it, tending to it, and using it to sustain the entire household. In many respects, the hearth stood as a symbol of the farmer's resilience. It was a constant source of comfort and survival. At the same time, the shelter wasn't built solely to guard against the cold. It was designed to protect against the elements more broadly, particularly in the wake of a storm. After all, the snow that fell during a blizzard wasn't a light dusting. It was dense and heavy, capable of blocking roads, building up against walls, and causing serious damage within the home. This is where the concept of windbreaks came into play. A windbreak, typically a simple wall or row of trees surrounding the shelter, served as a barrier, stopping the wind from reaching the structure's vulnerable walls. Windbreaks were essential for retaining warmth because wind could rapidly strip away any heat that had accumulated inside. Farmers also had to be inventive when it came to their livestock. In medieval times, animals were just as important for warmth as they were for food and labor. Farmers frequently housed their animals within the same structure or in close proximity. The body heat of the animals helped sustain a more stable temperature, providing vital warmth during the coldest nights. That said, sharing space with livestock presented its own difficulties, including odor and the ongoing need for upkeep. But it was a necessary trade-off in the fight against freezing temperatures. Now, as you sit near the hearth, listening to the wind and the snow piling up outside, you begin to appreciate the level of ingenuity that went into surviving a medieval winter. Every element of the shelter, the roof, the hearth, the walls, even the ground beneath, was carefully thought through, designed not just for comfort, but for survival. Each part of the home worked in harmony with the others, a reflection of the farmer's resilience and deep understanding of the natural world. And as the storm continues, you realize that while your shelter may not be perfect, it is sufficient. It has the durability to withstand the worst that nature can deliver. For tonight, at least, you are safe. The storm outside grows stronger, and the howling wind seems to push through even the sturdiest of walls. You can feel the chill seeping in through the smallest gaps in the timber or mud. Yet, remarkably, the interior of your shelter remains tolerable, warm, even. The fire burns steadily in the hearth, its flames casting long shadows across the room. You pull your cloak more tightly around you, grateful for the shelter you've constructed and for the warmth it provides in a world that tonight feels far too cold and unpredictable. As you settle in, you might find yourself reflecting on the sheer complexity of building a shelter in the medieval world. These homes, while seemingly modest by today's standards, were built with a remarkable degree of thought and resourcefulness. They had to be not just functional but durable enough to endure not only the intense cold of winter, but also the unpredictable storms that could arrive without warning. The roof, the hearth, and the walls all had to come together in a careful balance of materials and design, each element contributing to a space capable of withstanding the harshest conditions. Now, as the storm continues to rage, you begin to understand how the farmers of the medieval era had mastered the art of living alongside nature, turning its elements to their advantage. For them, the land was both an ally and an adversary. Wind and snow, while dangerous, could be kept at bay with the right structure, built from materials found in the surrounding environment. Every decision, from the timber used in the walls to the earth packed into the floor, was made with survival in mind. These weren't simply homes. They were fortresses constructed from the land itself. Take a moment to consider the thatched roof, a defining feature of medieval homes. In the world of medieval construction, thatch wasn't merely an aesthetic choice. It was a functional necessity. Thatch was lightweight, widely available, and easy to replace, qualities that made it well-suited for roofing. But its true value lay in how it performed during winter. The thick layers of straw or reed forming the roof helped retain heat while offering a surprising degree of insulation. Snow would gather on top of the thatch, further enhancing its insulating properties and creating an additional buffer against the cold. However, while the thatched roof was an effective insulator, it came with its own risks. The weight of accumulated snow and ice, if left unmanaged, could cause the roof to collapse. The possibility of structural failure was a genuine concern during a heavy blizzard. But this was a challenge that medieval farmers learned to address over time. They would routinely check their roofs, clearing excess snow to prevent dangerous weight buildup. If a roof showed signs of wear, they would replace the thatch or add reinforcements to preserve its structural integrity. But the roof was only one piece of the equation. What about the walls, those quiet barriers that stood between you and the elements? Their construction was equally important. In many medieval homes, walls were made using a combination of wattle and daub, a technique involving the weaving of branches or twigs into a lattice, which was then coated with a mixture of clay, straw, and animal dung. This method was surprisingly effective at keeping out the cold, as the thick layer of daub functioned as insulation. The walls, while not entirely immune to the chill, formed a barrier against the wind, helping to hold in the warmth generated by the hearth. As you sit in your shelter, it's easy to picture how indispensable these walls were during winter. Wind could cut through even the thickest stone walls, but the wattle and daub technique helped reduce drafts, keeping heat inside where it was needed most. These homes, though straightforward in construction, were built with an understanding of natural forces that was remarkably advanced for their time. The farmers recognized that every component of the shelter had to serve survival, from the materials chosen to the placement of the hearth. And most importantly, they understood that every decision was about creating a space where they could endure the worst of winter and come through with their livelihoods intact. Now, picture the sound of wind rattling the wooden beams of your shelter. Inside, however, there is a certain stillness. The fire crackles in the hearth, and the warmth filling the room is almost tangible, offering a rare sense of comfort in the medieval world. This warmth doesn't come without effort, though. It requires constant attention, stoking the fire, ensuring the wood supply is adequate, and making sure the hearth continues to generate enough heat to keep the interior livable. The work is unrelenting, but it is what keeps you alive through these cold, dark months. And of course, there is the matter of your animals. In medieval times, livestock were not merely a source of food or labor, they were essential to survival, especially in winter. The warmth generated by their bodies helped maintain the temperature inside the shelter, particularly at night when the cold would settle in and the wind would rise once more. Rewritten YouTube script. The close proximity between the family and the animals wasn't always comfortable, but it was necessary. The body heat from the livestock was just one more element that prevented the shelter from becoming a frozen tomb. In the heart of the storm, knowing those animals shared the space with you brought a quiet sense of solidarity. Despite the cold, despite the howling wind, you were not alone. Together with your animals, your family, and the shelter you had constructed, you found a way to endure. The storm outside may have been fierce, but the shelter crafted through ingenuity, careful planning, and an understanding of nature would see you through the night. As the storm began to ease, the sound of the wind slowly faded. Snow continued to fall in gentle flakes, but the worst had passed. You settled back in your chair, the warmth of the fire still surrounding you, and felt a quiet wave of gratitude. The shelter had held firm. Your family and livestock were safe. Winter may have had months still ahead, but for now, you were secure. You could rest knowing that through your efforts, you had created a sanctuary capable of withstanding even the most ferocious blizzard. The snow outside settled into a soft, steady blanket. The fury of the wind now nothing more than a distant memory. Yet even as the storm faded, the world beyond your walls remained wrapped in cold and silence. That quiet was almost suffocating, yet oddly comforting. Inside, the crackling fire offered the only sound, its gentle warmth spreading slowly across the room. You pulled your woolen blanket tighter around your shoulders, feeling the full weight of the day's exhaustion settle in. It was the kind of night where rest came easy, knowing the shelter was secure and the outside world was kept at bay. Medieval life was an endless cycle of survival, and winter was perhaps the most demanding part of that cycle. As a farmer, your success during the colder months depended on a combination of preparation, adaptability, and resilience. It wasn't enough to simply have a roof over your head. That roof had to be constructed in a way that could bear the weight of snow, resist the pressure of the wind, and hold back the kind of cold that could freeze a person to their core. Survival was never guaranteed, even with the best shelter. It was a constant, unrelenting struggle against nature. Inside your shelter tonight, you're reminded of the clever solutions medieval farmers developed to meet these challenges. You're surrounded by basic materials, wood, earth, stone, and thatch, yet together they form a home that has provided genuine protection and warmth through the harshest conditions. The walls may be constructed from wattle and daub, the roof may be thatched, and the hearth may be simple, but each component works in harmony to create a space that offers safety and heat. While these shelters were far from luxurious, they were sufficient to keep families alive through the long winter months. One of the more fascinating aspects of these homes was how they were designed to last. Despite the relatively modest materials, the walls made of wattle and daub weren't simply filler between wooden beams. They played an active role in retaining warmth. Wattle and daub, a technique used for centuries, involved weaving branches or twigs together to form a lattice, then coating that lattice with a mixture of mud, straw, and sometimes animal dung. This may sound basic, but the resulting walls were surprisingly durable and effective at keeping the cold out. The use of mud and clay to seal the walls was essential for insulation. When applied correctly, it created a thick, airtight barrier that trapped heat inside, preventing warmth from escaping. The walls weren't just blocking the cold, they were actively preserving the heat generated by the hearth, the animals, and the people living within. This was a clear example of how medieval farmers worked with available resources, adapting their materials to match their climate and conditions. Then there was the matter of the floors. Medieval farmers had no carpets or rugs to soften the hard ground underfoot. The floors were typically bare earth covered with straw or rushes to make movement more comfortable. While this might seem primitive, the soil beneath served as an additional layer of insulation, helping to hold warmth inside the home and preventing cold from rising up through the ground. Despite these practical adaptations, medieval homes were not without their vulnerabilities. Snow could accumulate to dangerous levels, and its weight could cause roofs to collapse if not regularly managed. Farmers had to remain alert, consistently clearing snow from the roof to prevent any structural failure. There is something quite telling about how these farmers learned to coexist with the natural world, constantly tending to their homes with a level of care and commitment that made the difference between life and death. Beyond the physical structure, there was also a mental and emotional dimension to winter survival. The long, dark nights could be deeply isolating, particularly when a storm raged outside and the days felt unbearably short. During these difficult stretches, families depended on one another for both warmth and emotional strength. The hearth became more than a place to cook and gather heat. It was the center of family life, where stories were shared, games were played, and relationships were deepened. Firelight danced across the walls, casting shifting shadows that made the surrounding darkness feel less oppressive. It was also during these months that the value of community became most apparent. In medieval villages, neighbors frequently helped one another prepare for the cold. If one family's shelter showed signs of weakness, the broader community would come together to reinforce it. Firewood, food, and warmth were shared, with the understanding that survival ultimately depended on collective effort. Even though each family maintained their own dwelling, a strong sense of shared responsibility tied everyone together through the hardest months. At the same time, there was an ever-present undercurrent of tension that came with the relentless threat of the elements. Despite the warmth of the fire and the effort poured into maintaining the home, there was always the lingering fear that something might fail. Perhaps the thatched roof would give way under heavy snow, or the firewood would run out before spring arrived. The unpredictability of winter meant that security was never absolute. No matter how thoroughly you prepared, the weather always held the final say. The storm could return at any moment, bringing a fresh set of challenges to navigate. But for now, in this moment, seated inside your shelter, the storm has passed. The wind has quieted, and the snow drifts down in soft, unhurried flakes. You are safe, warm, and surrounded by your family and animals. The fire continues to crackle in the hearth, and the air carries the familiar scent of wood smoke. The walls that once felt fragile now stand solid and dependable. The shelter you built, with its thatched roof and mud-coated walls, has weathered the full force of winter's fury and held. And tonight, at least, you can rest easy knowing you've done everything possible to make it through. Outside, the storm has passed, but the world remains silent and motionless. The once howling winds have died down completely, leaving only a thick, heavy quiet in their wake. The landscape is covered in white. The only signs of life are the faint tracks of animals that have ventured out in search of food. Inside your shelter, the fire continues to crackle, its warm glow pushing back the darkness and cold that linger beyond the walls. The space around you feels secure, almost sacred. For a moment, the outside world seems distant, as though nothing out there can reach you in here. But as you sit, a realization settles in. Surviving winter in medieval times wasn't simply about staying warm. It was about maintaining a careful balance between your environment and your shelter. Everything inside the home, from the layout to the building materials, was designed to handle the unpredictable demands of the winter months. The medieval farmer had no access to modern technology, so they depended on skill, resourcefulness, and constant attention to stay alive. Let's take a closer look at how the structure of the home itself played a key role in making that balance possible. The placement of walls, windows, and doors, the materials used for the roof, and even the position of the hearth were all choices made with survival in mind. Medieval farmers had to think carefully about every aspect of construction to ensure their homes could hold up against the worst winter conditions. The walls, for example, were typically built using a combination of wattle and daub. This method involved weaving branches together to form a latticed framework, which was then coated with a mixture of mud, clay, and straw. The strength of this approach lay in its simplicity. It was an effective way to keep out the cold while also allowing the home to breathe, reducing moisture buildup that could cause rot over time. The walls offered both insulation and ventilation, a critical feature given that medieval homes had none of the modern conveniences we rely on today, such as double-glazed windows or sealed doors. That insulation was essential. Medieval farmers lived in homes that were small by current standards, often consisting of just 1 or 2 rooms. In such compact spaces, every bit of warmth had to be carefully preserved. The thatched roof, though vulnerable to snow buildup, was also a smart way to retain heat. The snow itself acted as an additional layer of insulation, slowing the rate at which interior temperatures dropped. The thick layer of straw, reeds, or dried grasses that formed the roof allowed snow to collect on top, creating a dense, insulating barrier. The natural properties of thatch made it well suited for holding heat, and with regular upkeep, it could last for many years. But the roof wasn't without its dangers. Snow accumulation was a silent threat, gradually building up until the structure could no longer support the weight. While the thatched roof was practical, it demanded consistent attention. Farmers had to clear snow from their roofs after every storm to prevent dangerous levels of buildup. This was an ongoing responsibility that required both time and physical effort, a reminder that even the most straightforward solutions in medieval life came with their own complications. Inside the shelter, the hearth was central to everything. Its importance cannot be overstated. The hearth wasn't just used for cooking or heating water. It was the core of the home. It was where warmth was produced, where the family came together, and where the daily routine of life took shape. But it also served as a constant reminder of how fragile survival could be. Without a steady supply of firewood and ongoing attention, the heat it provided could quickly disappear. Collecting firewood was a critical task, typically begun in autumn, well before the first snow of winter arrived. The work of cutting, stacking, and storing wood was just as important to survival as the construction of the home itself. Beyond warmth, the fire also served a practical purpose during the long winter nights. The days were short and the darkness long. Inside the shelter, the flickering light of the fire helped hold back that darkness, creating a sense of comfort and safety. The sound of the flames, combined with their heat, became a reliable presence in the home and a steady anchor in an otherwise uncertain world. Then there were the animals. In the medieval world, livestock wasn't simply a source of food or labor. It was a component of survival. The warmth generated by cattle, sheep, and pigs helped maintain a more stable temperature inside the shelter. In many medieval homes, animals and people shared the same living space. This arrangement allowed the body heat of the animals to contribute to the overall warmth of the household. Of course, sharing a home with livestock came with its own difficulties. The odor, the need for regular cleaning, and the challenge of keeping animals healthy through a harsh winter were all part of daily life. But for the medieval farmer, these were necessary trade-offs in the effort to stay alive. The presence of animals also added another layer of protection on the coldest nights, offering a simple but effective buffer against frostbite or hypothermia. The animals provided warmth, and in return, the family provided food and care. It was a practical, mutually beneficial relationship built around the shared goal of survival. As the wind outside settles further, the temperature inside your shelter holds steady. You lean back, reflecting on how, despite every difficulty and risk that winter brings, the shelter you've built or inherited has done its job. It has kept you warm, protected, and shielded from the storm. It stands as proof of the ingenuity and determination of medieval farmers who, with little more than what the land offered, managed to endure some of the most brutal conditions imaginable. But this winter, like every winter, will eventually give way to spring. The snow will melt, the days will lengthen, and the sun's warmth will return. The cycle of life will go on, and the farmer's work will shift from endurance to preparation for the next season. For now, though, tonight you rest. The shelter holds firm against the cold, and you are safe. Tomorrow will bring its own set of challenges. But tonight, the storm is over. The world outside is still, broken only by the occasional soft shift of snow in the wind. The silence feels almost peaceful, as though nature itself has paused to recover after the fury it unleashed. Inside the shelter, you are wrapped in warmth and quiet. The fire casts gentle shadows along the walls, and the steady rhythm of the crackling flames provides a quiet backdrop to your thoughts as you settle in and find comfort in the calm. Here, in this simple refuge, you begin to appreciate just how deeply the medieval farmer's connection to their home was rooted not only in survival, but in the fundamental human need for rest and security. And in the middle of this stillness, you may find yourself thinking about the true ingenuity behind these medieval structures. The skill involved in building a home that could withstand not only snowstorms but also the ongoing hardships of medieval life was truly impressive. It wasn't only the materials that made these homes effective, although they played a major role. It was the awareness that survival depended on more than just having a roof overhead. It required creating a space that worked in balance with the environment, one that could defend against harsh weather while providing essential warmth, food, and comfort. Constructing a shelter in medieval times meant carefully considering every part of the structure, from the base to the roof. The medieval farmer, familiar with hard labor and practicality, understood that every detail mattered. You might have used local timber for the frame, a strong option capable of handling heavy snow and seasonal storms. However, the walls, often built using wattle and daub, were among the most notable features for their ability to control temperature. The method of weaving thin branches or twigs into a lattice was, in itself, highly effective. This framework was then coated with a mixture of clay, straw, and sometimes animal dung. Although it may appear basic, the final material provided strong insulation, keeping heat inside while blocking cold winds. Unlike the smooth, solid walls of modern houses, the texture of wattle and daub was uneven and breathable. This allowed air circulation, preventing moisture from building up inside the shelter. In a time without modern ventilation systems, managing moisture was crucial for both the durability of the home and the health of those living in it. While the walls protected against the cold, the roof was equally important. It wasn't enough to simply place thatch over the structure. The roof needed to be designed with an understanding of snow weight. Thatch, with its layered straw or reeds, naturally allowed snow to settle on top, forming an extra layer of insulation. This packed snow helped trap heat inside, creating a barrier against the cold air that might otherwise enter through the roof or walls. Still, despite its insulating advantages, the thatched roof also had its weaknesses. The same snow that added warmth also increased pressure on the structure. Medieval farmers had to remain alert, often removing snow after each storm to avoid excessive weight. This became a regular task during winter. While the roof design was highly effective for insulation, the risk of collapse was always present. Maintaining it reflected the farmer's deep understanding of nature and the need to work alongside it rather than resist it. Inside the shelter, the hearth served as the center of the home. Fire was the main source of heat and light, and without it, the shelter would have been cold and uncomfortable. Keeping the fire burning was not just about comfort, it was essential for survival. Farmers spent long hours during autumn collecting and cutting firewood, storing it carefully to last through winter. The hearth was also used for cooking, and preparing meals around the fire brought the family together. Its importance extended beyond basic use. It became a place for connection, where people gathered, shared stories, talked, and passed time during long winter nights. These moments turned the hearth into more than a necessity. It became a space of warmth, unity, and emotional comfort despite the harsh conditions outside. The presence of animals within the shelter also played an important role. Medieval farmers recognized the value of livestock, not only for food or labor but also for the heat they produced. Animals, especially larger ones like cattle and sheep, generated body warmth that helped maintain indoor temperature. Keeping them close during winter was not only practical but also a form of shared dependence. The animals needed protection from the cold, and the farmers relied on their warmth to get through freezing nights. This relationship supported both humans and animals during the most difficult months of the year. As the storm outside slowly fades, the calm inside the shelter brings a sense of relief. The intensity of winter has passed, and the home you've built, or inherited, has carried you through. It stands as proof of the farmer's strength and adaptability that such simple materials, wood, thatch, and mud, can form a space that not only protects but also sustains life. Although it may seem unlikely to achieve comfort in such harsh conditions, the medieval shelter was a carefully designed system focused on survival. Every part of the structure, from the walls to the roof to the hearth, served the purpose of keeping out the cold and supporting the family's needs. These homes, though simple, were shaped by generations of experience, learning, and adaptation to the land. Ultimately, survival was about more than just building a house. It required understanding natural patterns, predicting challenges, and working with the environment to create a space that could last. As you sit beside the fire, the shelter becomes more than a physical structure. It represents the resilience of those who lived within it and the quiet partnership between the farmer and the land they depended on. As the evening continues, the warmth from the hearth surrounds you with steady comfort. The soft movement of the flames reflects against the quiet stillness outside, casting a gentle glow across the shelter walls. The snow that once fell heavily has now settled, leaving behind a calm and untouched winter landscape. Inside, time feels slower. The sound of the fire crackling fills the space, creating a peaceful atmosphere. It is a moment to reflect on the shelter that has kept you safe, warm, and secure through the storm. The medieval home, despite its flaws, was a careful balance of structure, function, and endurance. Each part of the shelter, the roof, the walls, the hearth, was not built for appearance but for survival. For the medieval farmer, every feature served as protection against nature's toughest conditions. The design of the home was closely connected to the farmer's understanding of land, weather, and seasonal change. The home was not just a place to stay. It was built to endure, to protect, and to support life through every cycle of nature. The role of the roof remains especially important. Thatch, widely used by medieval farmers, was both efficient and practical. Its ability to retain heat, combined with the insulating effect of snow, made it highly suitable for cold seasons. However, like any solution, it came with challenges. The buildup of snow and ice, while helpful for insulation, could quickly become a risk if not properly managed. The medieval farmer needed to stay alert, regularly clearing the roof after each snowfall to prevent excessive weight from building up. If left unaddressed, a collapsing roof could become a serious disaster. This routine task clearly showed how survival in the medieval world was a constant struggle against natural forces. Even so, the challenges of roof maintenance were matched by the farmer's practical thinking. The combination of thatch and snow, although it required regular care, created a simple yet effective method of insulation. Over time, farmers improved their skills, learning how to repair and strengthen their roofs while adjusting to seasonal changes and unpredictable weather. This ability to adapt, to learn from the land and respond accordingly, was a defining feature of medieval life. There was no universal method for survival. Each farmer and each family had to find their own balance based on available materials and the specific conditions of their surroundings. Shifting focus from the roof to the walls, the structure of medieval shelters also demonstrates this same level of resourcefulness. Wattle and daub, the method commonly used for building walls, perfectly reflected the farmer's ability to use natural resources effectively. Woven branches combined with a mixture of mud, clay, and straw formed walls that were surprisingly strong, offering protection from both cold and wind. The breathable quality of these materials allowed moisture to escape, reducing the risk of rot or mold. In the absence of modern insulation, wattle and daub proved to be a practical and efficient solution, contributing greatly to the warmth and comfort of the home. Though simple by modern standards, these walls played a vital role in defending the household against harsh weather. They worked together with the roof and the hearth to trap heat, helping the shelter maintain a steady temperature. As strong winds blew outside, the walls remained firm, acting as a barrier against the cold. Today, with central heating and advanced insulation, it may be difficult to imagine such conditions. However, for medieval farmers, every part of the shelter was essential in preserving warmth. These walls, despite their rough construction, were a key part of that effort. Inside the shelter, the hearth functioned as the center of the home. It provided heat, light, and a sense of comfort, one constant in a world that frequently shifted between light and darkness, warmth and cold. The hearth became the focal point of daily life, where meals were cooked, stories were shared, and the fire's warmth kept the cold away. Without it, survival would have been extremely difficult. The hearth allowed families to endure long winter nights, offering not only physical warmth but also emotional reassurance. Imagine the steady crackling of the fire as heat spreads throughout the space, flames flickering and casting shadows along the walls, while the scent of burning wood fills the air. Gradually, warmth reaches every corner, easing the cold that had settled earlier. The hearth becomes a living presence, turning a cold and dark night into something manageable, even comfortable. However, this comfort depended on constant effort. Without properly gathered firewood, careful tending of the flames, and regular maintenance, the warmth would quickly disappear. Like the roof and the walls, the hearth required ongoing attention. Every part of the shelter needed care and protection to continue supporting the family. As you sit near the hearth, feeling the warmth settle into your skin, the importance of these details becomes clear. The shelter was more than just a structure. It was a place of safety, carefully built to withstand winter storms and provide comfort during harsh conditions. The thatched roof, the wattle and daub walls, and the hearth all work together to form a home capable of enduring the uncertainties of medieval life. Listening to the soft crackle of the fire and feeling warmth fill the space, you begin to understand the effort behind creating such a place. The medieval farmer did not simply build a shelter, they created a home that reflected a deep awareness of the land and its patterns. Within this modest space, the balance between nature and human effort becomes clear, offering a sense of security and calm even during difficult times. As the storm outside fades, you find rest in the warmth and comfort of the home you helped shape. While the weather remains beyond control, within these walls you have created a space that can withstand nature's challenges. For now, that is enough. Outside, the snow forms a smooth white layer, reflecting the soft light of the moon. The storm has passed, leaving behind a quiet stillness, interrupted only by the occasional shift of snow settling on the roof. Inside, the shelter feels separate from the freezing world beyond. The hearth, still warm, remains a steady presence at the center of the room. The fire burns gently, releasing small waves of heat into the air. You pull the blanket closer around your shoulders, thankful for the protection your home provides against the severe cold. In this moment, you may reflect on the life of the medieval farmer. Their existence was marked by constant effort, where survival depended on a careful balance of resources, knowledge, and understanding of the environment. Each winter and every storm tested not only their physical strength but also their ability to adapt, learn, and improve. The shelter, in its simplest form, stood as proof of their skill and determination. Building a medieval home was not only about survival but also about understanding nature. Materials such as stone, wood, and mud were selected not just for availability, but for their ability to withstand harsh conditions. The use of thatch for roofing, for example, was not merely for appearance. It had been used for generations because of its insulating qualities. Layers of straw and reed, when properly arranged, trapped heat inside, protecting against strong winds and snow. However, thatch also had its limitations. Snow accumulation could create dangerous pressure, and over time, the material required repair and replacement. Despite these drawbacks, it remained a common roofing choice across medieval Europe. When properly maintained, its durability was impressive. Another critical part of the home that required constant care was the hearth. The fire served as the lifeline of the household, providing heat, light, and a place for cooking. It was also where water was heated and where families gathered for comfort during long, cold nights. The hearth was more than a practical feature. It was the center of daily life, the element that kept darkness and cold under control. Without it, a medieval home would have been nothing more than a basic shelter, offering little relief from the harsh environment. The fire, while essential, demanded constant attention. Collecting wood, cutting it, and storing it properly for the winter months was a task that required planning and awareness. A lack of firewood could lead to serious consequences, and once it ran out, so did the warmth. In this way, the hearth reflected the farmer's awareness of seasonal changes. It was not enough to simply build a shelter for winter. Preparation had to begin long before the first snowfall. Then there was the matter of the walls. The medieval shelter was commonly constructed using wattle and daub, a technique that blended the flexibility of wood with the insulating qualities of mud and clay. This combination helped retain heat inside while keeping the cold air out. However, like the roof, the walls required regular upkeep. The daub needed to be reapplied to maintain its strength and insulation. Even a small crack could allow drafts to enter, and such drafts could determine whether one survived the winter or fell victim to its harsh cold. Inside the shelter, warmth did not come from the fire alone. The body heat of the family, along with that of the livestock, often kept in the same space, helped raise the overall temperature. The animals depended on the shelter for protection from the weather, just as the humans did. This shared warmth and mutual dependence were vital for surviving winter. The animals provided heat during the coldest nights, and in return, the farmer provided them with food and protection. This close relationship between humans and animals became especially important during severe winters when survival was uncertain. As you sit near the hearth, the sound of the fire gently crackling serves as a reminder of the effort required to maintain this warmth through the night. The wind outside may still be strong, But within these walls, there is safety. The shelter, with its careful design and continuous maintenance, proves its value once again. It has protected you through the storm, just as it has done many times before. Yet, as the flames flicker and warmth spreads through the room, it is clear that the work is never truly finished. The shelter needs upkeep, firewood must be restocked, and the animals require care. Survival is an ongoing cycle, though it becomes more manageable with the comfort of a well-built home. Looking around, you notice the walls of your shelter, the thatched roof above, and the hearth glowing steadily. Each element tells a story of effort, skill, and resourcefulness that turned this structure into more than just a place to live. It became a place to endure. Every crack, every layer of thatch, and every piece of wood in the fire reflects the attention given to making this home a refuge from the cold. You begin to recognize the quiet strength of this shelter, understanding that it has endured both time and harsh weather. Now, as the fire begins to fade and long shadows stretch across the room, a sense of calm settles in. The storm has passed. Though the world outside remains cold, inside there is warmth, comfort, and security. You can rest peacefully, knowing that the shelter you built or inherited has fulfilled its purpose once again. It has shielded you from the worst of winter, keeping you safe within its walls. Tomorrow will arrive, bringing with it the ongoing responsibilities of survival. But for now, you can rest. The fire will continue to burn through the night, and the shelter will remain strong. Whatever challenges come next can be faced later. At this moment, you are secure. The storm is over. As you wrap yourself more tightly in your cloak, the warmth from the hearth gently draws you into stillness. The fire, now reduced to glowing embers, continues to give off a soft heat across the room. Outside, the wind has quieted to a faint whisper, a reminder of the storm that passed not long ago. Inside, however, there is only calm. The world beyond the walls may feel harsh and empty, but here you are surrounded by what matters most: warmth, safety, and companionship. This sense of security is significant. The life of a medieval farmer was defined by constant effort and challenge. Yet within a well-built shelter, there was a brief escape from the elements. The work never truly ended. There were always repairs, tasks, and new difficulties to face. Still, when the storm had passed and the fire burned steadily, there was a moment to rest and recognize the value of the shelter built with care and foresight. It was not merely a roof overhead, it was a stronghold, representing resilience and practical knowledge in the face of nature's challenges. For medieval farmers, the shelter served as both a refuge and a tool. It was essential for survival, shaped by a deep understanding of the land and the seasons. Its construction required balance, where every material had a clear purpose and each design decision focused on function. Thatch provided insulation, mud and clay formed breathable walls, and wood created a solid framework. These basic materials, when used effectively, produced a home capable of withstanding severe winters. During the coldest months, when days were short and nights long, the shelter became the center of daily life. It was not only a place to sleep but also a place to work, eat, and connect with others. You think about the animals sharing the space: cattle, sheep, and pigs. Their presence is vital. They provide food and labor, and their body heat contributes to maintaining warmth inside the shelter. This shared environment, where humans and animals lived closely together, was a key part of medieval farming. The warmth generated by livestock gathered in one area helped stabilize the indoor temperature, particularly during cold nights when outside temperatures dropped sharply. The animals relied on the shelter just as much as the people did, forming a system of mutual support that made survival possible. The importance of the fire cannot be overlooked. It was the hearth that turned a cold structure into a livable home. The fire provided heat, light, and a sense of comfort. Without it, the shelter would remain cold and unwelcoming. However, maintaining the fire required consistent effort. Wood had to be collected, stored properly, and kept dry. The hearth needed cleaning, and the fire had to be sustained through long winter nights. In many ways, the care given to the hearth reflected the farmer's dedication to enduring the cold. The fire was both a necessity and a symbol of working with natural elements to create something sustainable. It represented the connection between human effort and the environment. Now, as you sit in the warmth of your shelter, the heat from the fire still filling the space, you reflect on the effort behind its creation. Every part of the shelter, from the wattle and daub walls to the thatched roof, reflects knowledge passed down through generations. The medieval farmer understood how to use the materials around them to construct something that could shield them from the elements. They recognized that survival was not only about building a house, but about creating a home that could last, a refuge capable of enduring even the harshest storms. Shelter in medieval times was closely connected to the rhythm of nature. The farmer did not simply work according to the seasons, they lived alongside them. Each season demanded its own tasks and preparations. In the fall, firewood was collected, crops were gathered, and the shelter was checked and strengthened. During winter, the shelter became a place of protection from the cold, where people stayed close together to get through the long nights. Then in spring, the cycle began again as the land softened and new growth appeared. As you sit by the fire tonight, you are reminded of the delicate balance between humans and the natural world. The shelter you occupy, though simple in design, reflects the resilience of those who came before you. It was not built in a single day, but developed over years of trial and adjustment, learning from the land, and adapting to changing seasons. The materials may have been basic, wood, straw, mud, and stone, but the knowledge behind their use was far more advanced. Medieval farmers built homes designed to withstand severe conditions. They created spaces that could last and keep them secure. Tonight, as you remain inside your shelter, you realize how much effort has gone into this place. The labor, attention to detail, and deep understanding of the environment have all combined to form a space that protects you from cold and storms. The fire continues to burn, casting a soft light that moves gently across the walls, and you feel a quiet sense of appreciation. The storm outside has now passed into memory. As the firelight flickers, you understand that, at least for tonight, everything is calm. You are safe. Tomorrow will bring more work, more responsibilities, and new challenges. But for now, you can rest. The shelter stands firm against the storm, and inside, the warmth of the hearth and the presence of those close to you will carry you through the long night. The silence of the night stretches ahead. The glow of the fire softens as the embers begin to fade, though their warmth still lingers in the air. The storm, now distant, has left behind a quiet stillness that covers the land outside. The snow, thick and heavy, has settled into a calm layer that reflects the faint light of the moon, giving the surroundings an almost dreamlike appearance. Inside your shelter, there is a clear sense of peace and security. The wind, once loud and forceful, is now only a soft whisper against the strong walls. The hearth, though less bright, continues to provide steady warmth, reminding you that within these walls, you are protected from the elements. As you settle deeper into your cloak, the familiar creak of the wooden beams above adds to the calm atmosphere. The shelter, strong and dependable, has proven itself once again. The walls, thick with layers of wattle and daub, the roof that has supported the weight of snow, and the hearth that has provided heat and light, all work together to create a space where survival is possible even in severe conditions. You begin to think about how much has been invested in this small but powerful home. Despite its simplicity, the shelter holds the knowledge of generations. Skills passed down over centuries, from the choice of materials to the methods of insulation, are the result of careful observation and adaptation to the land. There is a natural harmony in how everything fits together: the ground beneath your feet, the solid wooden frame, the protective thatch above, and the steady warmth of the hearth. Each part has a role, contributing to the whole. Together, they form something greater than a structure. It becomes a refuge, a secure place against the unpredictable forces of nature. The design of the roof shows the farmer's understanding of balance in nature. Thatch, although vulnerable, served as an effective insulator when properly maintained. Layers of straw, reed, or grass, tightly packed, could repel much of the snow while keeping warmth inside. However, the weight of snow remained a hidden danger. The farmer needed to stay alert, clearing it regularly to prevent the roof from collapsing. Knowledge of how to maintain and strengthen the roof, using ropes or added supports, was passed from one generation to the next, ensuring the shelter remained safe regardless of how intense the storm became. Inside, the presence of the hearth is still strong. The fire, now reduced to glowing embers, continues to release heat, spreading warmth steadily throughout the space. It is difficult to overstate how essential the hearth was for survival during winter. The fire provided not only warmth, but also light, a way to cook food, and a central place for the family to gather. It was truly the heart of the home, the place where daily life unfolded, where meals were prepared, conversations took place, and comfort was shared. The importance of the hearth in a medieval home cannot be overstated. It was not merely a source of heat, it was the center of everyday life. Without it, the home would have been cold and unlivable. Yet the hearth also held deeper meaning. It symbolized the family's connection to the natural world. The wood that fueled the fire came from the land, and the fire itself represented a controlled form of nature's power. It served as both a practical tool and a sign of the farmer's adaptability and strength. The ability to manage fire, to use it effectively, was one of the most critical aspects of survival. Within its warmth, the farmer and their family found comfort during long, cold nights, confident in their ability to endure. Animals also played a key role in the function of the shelter. Their presence highlighted the close relationship between humans and the land. The heat from livestock helped maintain a more stable temperature inside the shelter. In return, the farmer provided care, food, and protection, ensuring the animals survived the winter. This mutual relationship, where both humans and animals depended on each other, was central to medieval farming life. The animals were not just sources of food or labor, they were essential partners in surviving harsh conditions. As you sit in the soft glow of the firelight, the shelter around you feels like more than just walls and a roof. It feels active, almost alive. The walls, the roof, the hearth, and the animals all function together, forming a space that can withstand even the most difficult challenges nature presents. Each part of the home has a clear function, and together they create something stronger than their individual pieces. Outside, the snow continues to fall lightly. The storm has finally passed, though the cold still remains in the air. Inside your shelter, however, you are warm, safe, and protected. The work of the medieval farmer, building, maintaining, and living in such homes, was a continuous cycle. The shelter was not simply a passive structure. It actively supported the survival of the family. It demanded constant care, attention, and adjustment to shifting seasons and unpredictable weather. When all that effort came together, the result was a space that offered not only physical protection but also a sense of comfort. As the fire begins to fade, casting long shadows across the room, you feel a quiet sense of appreciation. The shelter you live in, though modest, reflects the strength and skill of those who came before. It has carried you through the storm, providing warmth and safety. Now, as the fire flickers for the last time, you realize that this small and simple space has done more than keep you alive. It has kept you connected to the land, to your surroundings, and to generations of farmers who lived and worked this way for centuries. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but for now, you can rest. The storm has passed. The shelter has endured nature's force. You are safe, and for this moment, that is enough. The embers now glow softly, their heat slowly fading as the night becomes quieter. Outside, the land remains covered in snow, transformed into a clean, untouched landscape. The storm may be gone, but the cold still lingers just beyond your shelter. Inside, however, there is a deep sense of calm, a security that comes from knowing the structure is more than just a roof overhead. It acts as a barrier against the harshest conditions of nature. For now, it stands firm, protecting you from the cold winds, the freezing air, and the darkness outside. You begin to reflect on the simple yet essential ways this shelter has supported your survival. Every part of it, from the roof to the hearth to the walls, has been designed with purpose. Each element, no matter how basic, plays a role in maintaining warmth, protection, and endurance through the harsh winter. The building of this shelter was not a single event. It was shaped over years of learning, adapting, and refining techniques. The use of thatch for the roof, wattle and daub for the walls, and the careful placement of the hearth all came from generations of experience. This knowledge was not instinctive, it was passed down over time, shared from one farmer to another, ensuring the survival of entire communities. Sitting by the hearth, you begin to understand the effort behind this structure. The thatched roof, while appearing simple, requires skill to maintain. Snow can provide insulation, but it also adds weight. The farmer must regularly clear it to prevent collapse. The roof needs to remain strong, yet flexible enough to handle snow buildup, which in turn helps trap heat. Maintaining this balance is essential for keeping the interior warm during winter. The walls also need regular care. Wattle and daub, though effective, are not fully resistant to the elements. The mixture of mud, clay, and straw covering the wooden framework must be repaired and reapplied to keep out wind and cold. Using natural materials as insulation is a simple yet highly effective solution. These materials, taken directly from the surrounding land, are essential in maintaining warmth. Without them, the heat from the hearth would quickly escape, leaving the shelter cold and unlivable. In many ways, the medieval shelter reflects the farmer's relationship with the land. Every choice in its construction responds directly to the environment. The materials, the structure, and the ongoing maintenance all come from a deep understanding of nature. Survival was not about overpowering the environment, but about working alongside it, using available resources to create a home capable of enduring harsh conditions. As you sit by the fire, you realize that this shelter, simple as it is, has allowed you not only to survive, but to function in a world that can often be unforgiving. It has given you warmth, safety, and rest when the outside world was at its most severe. You think of the generations before you, who lived in similar homes, facing the same hardships. Despite everything they endured, their skill, adaptability, and connection to the land allowed them to survive in ways that seem remarkable today. The relationship between the medieval farmer and their home was more than necessity, it was built on understanding and respect. The shelter was not just a place to stay, it was part of a larger system. The roof, the walls, and the hearth all worked together to support life, even when conditions outside were harsh. Now, as the fire fades to a soft glow, you begin to feel the weight of the day. The storm has passed, and the shelter has proven its strength once again. You are warm, safe, and at ease. Tomorrow will bring new tasks, but for now, you can rest. The shelter has fulfilled its purpose, and that brings a quiet sense of gratitude. As you close your eyes, the soft crackle of the embers fades into the background, and the remaining warmth settles within you. The storm that once felt powerful is now only a memory. Inside, you are protected. Inside, you are home. The night grows even quieter. A gentle wind outside is the only reminder of what came before. Within your shelter, the warmth from the hearth continues to spread, casting soft moving shadows along the walls. The fire, now reduced to glowing embers, still provides a steady and comforting heat. Though the shelter is simple, it feels like a place of calm in the middle of a cold and empty landscape. The thick walls of wattle and daub, the thatched roof, and the steady warmth of the fire, these elements turn this space into more than just a refuge. They make it a stronghold against winter. You sit quietly, watching the flicker of the firelight, reflecting on the resilience and knowledge that made this shelter possible. The materials used in its construction, wood, straw, and clay, were all taken from the land and shaped by human hands into a structure capable of withstanding even the harshest conditions. Medieval farmers were not simply building a place to sleep. They were developing a system designed to resist the severity of nature. Every part of the shelter was created with survival as the priority. From the insulating strength of the thatched roof to the natural airflow provided by the wattle and daub walls, these homes may appear simple with their natural materials and compact layouts, but they represented centuries of knowledge passed down through generations. The farmers' understanding of the land and its seasons, along with their close awareness of how snow, wind, and rain affected their homes, was essential for survival. The medieval farmer did not just endure winter. They adapted to it, lived alongside it, and built shelters that worked with nature rather than opposing it. The thatched roof, for instance, was one of the most effective natural insulators available. Layers of straw, reeds, or grasses, when arranged correctly, trapped heat inside and formed a barrier against the wind. It was not a perfect system, however. Snow could gather on the roof, and while it added insulation, it also placed pressure on the structure. Farmers had to stay alert, regularly removing snow to prevent the roof from collapsing under its weight. Still, when properly maintained, thatch remained one of the most reliable roofing materials available to medieval farmers. It was light, widely available, and highly efficient at keeping out the cold. At the same time, the walls made from wattle and daub served as a second layer of defense. The woven branches coated with a mixture of clay and straw helped block cold winds. The mud and clay used in daub also acted as a natural barrier against moisture, reducing dampness inside the home. Without this careful construction, the shelter would have been little more than a drafty and unlivable space during the long winter months. But with proper materials and upkeep, it became a warm and dry environment that allowed families to survive even the coldest nights. Inside medieval homes, the hearth stood as the central feature, providing both warmth and light. The fire was not just a source of heat, it was the core of daily life. Families gathered around it to cook meals, share stories, and spend time together. In a world where cold could easily become fatal, the fire served as a lifeline. Its warmth made the shelter livable, and its light made long nights easier to endure, allowing daily routines to continue even in darkness. Without the hearth, the home would have been cold and empty. However, like the roof and walls, the hearth required constant care. Collecting firewood, maintaining the flames, and ensuring the fire never went out were daily responsibilities that demanded time and effort. Firewood needed to be cut, stored, and prepared well before winter arrived. A lack of firewood could lead to serious consequences, so farmers worked consistently to ensure the hearth was always ready. This continuous effort reflected the farmers' deep understanding of nature. The fire was not a luxury, it was essential for survival. As you sit beside the hearth tonight, you feel a sense of gratitude for the shelter around you. It has kept you safe, warm, and protected from the storm. It has given you a place to rest, to find comfort, and to endure the long winter nights. Though simple in appearance, the shelter is a result of careful adaptation and survival. It reflects the resilience of the medieval farmer who, using only available resources, created a space strong enough to survive harsh winters. The animals within the shelter also add to this sense of security. In medieval homes, it was common for livestock to share the same space as the family. The body heat of these animals helped maintain a stable indoor temperature. Cattle, sheep, and even pigs provided not only food and labor but also warmth, making their presence especially important during winter. In return, the animals relied on the shelter for protection from the cold. This mutual dependence between farmer and animal created a strong connection where both supported each other's survival. The animals were not just livestock, they were partners in enduring the cold. As the fire begins to burn lower, casting long moving shadows along the walls, the weight of the day slowly fades away. The storm outside has passed, though the snow and cold still remain. Yet inside this modest shelter, you are secure. The warmth of the hearth, the strength of the walls, and the presence of those around you turn this small space into a place of comfort. The shelter has fulfilled its purpose. It has kept the storm outside and allowed you to rest. The cycle of survival will continue, and tomorrow will bring new challenges. But for now, you are safe. The night grows quieter, and the storm becomes a distant memory. The snow, once intense and sharp, now rests gently across the land, covering everything in a calm layer of white. The cold air outside remains strong but no longer feels threatening. Inside the shelter, there is calm. The fire, now a soft glow, creates faint shadows along the walls, adding a final sense of comfort to the night. As you sit in silence, listening to the soft crackling of the fire, you begin to understand how important this moment of peace truly is. Life in the medieval world was a continuous cycle of survival, where each day brought new responsibilities, gathering firewood, repairing the shelter, and protecting crops and livestock. Yet tonight, as the storm fades and the warmth fills the space, you recognize the value of effort, care, and practical knowledge. The shelter around you was built with a deep understanding of nature and its patterns. Every part of it, from the chosen materials to the design itself, served a clear purpose. The thatched roof, which held in heat and shed snow, was more than just a covering. It acted as protection against the cold, helping the shelter retain warmth even as temperatures dropped. The walls of wattle and daub, while not completely airtight, reduced the impact of strong winds. The hearth, placed at the center of the home, provided not only heat and light but also a space where daily life took place. It was where food was prepared, stories were shared, and families found comfort together. It is easy to overlook the comfort of a well-maintained shelter, but for the medieval farmer, that comfort had to be earned every day. Maintaining the thatch, repairing the walls, and collecting firewood were ongoing tasks that required skill and attention. There was no easy solution to surviving winter. It depended on steady effort, repeated year after year, to ensure the shelter remained strong enough to face the forces of nature. The snow, while quietly beautiful, was also a powerful force capable of collapsing roofs, freezing livestock, and bringing a farmer's life to a standstill. The effort required to build a shelter that could withstand such storms was more than just physical work. It demanded mental focus and emotional dedication to survival. The medieval farmer's connection with their shelter was deeply symbiotic. The shelter reflected the farmer's ability to adjust to the land and its natural cycles. In return, it offered protection from the harsh elements that made daily life so challenging. This relationship was a continuous exchange. Each depended on the other to survive. It was this balance, this interdependence, that enabled farmers to endure severe winters and relentless storms. As the fire slowly burns lower, a sense of fulfillment settles in. The storm has passed, the shelter has served its purpose, and you are safe. The day's work is complete. For now, there is nothing left to do but rest. Tomorrow will bring new responsibilities and challenges. But tonight, you find comfort in the warmth of the hearth, in the safety of the shelter, and in the understanding that you have built a space capable of resisting nature's strongest forces. The firelight continues to flicker, casting long, shifting shadows across the room. Outside, the wind has calmed, and the world feels still. The shelter, with its thatched roof, wattle and daub walls, and central hearth, stands as a clear example of the farmer's ingenuity. It may not be large or luxurious, but it is dependable. It is strong, resilient, and provides everything necessary for survival. The storm has ended. Snow continues to fall gently, and inside, warmth and calm prevail. Your eyes begin to close as the crackling fire becomes a soft lullaby, and the comfort of the shelter surrounds you. The night is long, but it is safe, and you are warm. Tomorrow will bring its own demands, but for now, you are secure. The shelter stands firm against the cold, and within it, you are home. The quiet of the night stretches on, marked only by the faint glow of the fading fire. Outside, the snow continues its steady fall, slow and rhythmic, like nature itself breathing. Inside the shelter, there is a similar stillness, covering the space with a sense of safety and calm. The storm, once intense, is now only a distant memory, its force spent. What remains is the quiet, the warm air, and the steady presence of a well-built home, its foundation strong against the cold. As you sit near the hearth, the last embers giving off a soft light, you begin to understand that the life of a medieval farmer, though filled with hard labor and constant challenges, was also one of deep connection to the earth and its seasons. Each winter storm and every cold night tested the strength of the shelter, ensuring it could endure nature's pressures. The work of building and maintaining it, while tiring, was also rewarding. It represented a form of living in balance with the surrounding world, an unspoken agreement between the farmer and the land. The farmer offered effort and care, and the land responded with sustenance and protection. The structure you now sit in was not created all at once. It developed over time, shaped by seasonal rhythms and knowledge passed down through generations. The thatched roof, though somewhat delicate, was an effective solution for insulation. Layers of straw and reed were carefully arranged to trap heat inside while allowing snow to settle on top, adding another layer of insulation against the cold. The roof was not just a physical covering. It represented a careful balance between human skill and the demands of nature. In return for the farmer's effort, it retained warmth, shielding the family from winter's harsh conditions. The walls, made of wattle and daub, a mixture of earth, straw, and clay, had their own understated strength. They were not perfectly smooth or completely airtight, but they were reliable and solid. Their purpose was simple: to block the wind, reduce the impact of frost, and keep warmth inside. The combination of wood and mud created a durable and practical barrier. The way these walls allowed moisture to escape while still preventing cold air from entering showed a clear understanding of the environment. These were not just walls. They reflected the farmer's knowledge and experience, designed to keep the family safe from both cold and damp conditions. As you sit in the quiet, the faint scent of burning wood still present. A deep appreciation for the shelter grows. The medieval farmer understood how to build a home that could endure. They used the materials available along with their own effort to create something capable of lasting through difficult winters. The hearth was central to this design. It was not only a source of heat but the core of the home. It provided light, warmth, and a place for gathering. Without it, the shelter would have been cold and empty. With it, the space became livable and welcoming. Animals also played an important role. They were not only sources of food or labor but partners in survival. The warmth from their bodies helped maintain heat inside the shelter during the coldest nights. Although caring for them required effort, they contributed an additional layer of warmth, making conditions more manageable. In return, the farmer provided them with protection and care, ensuring they had food and shelter. This mutual dependence between humans and animals was essential for survival in medieval life. Tonight, as the fire dims and the room settles into a soft darkness, you reflect on the effort that went into creating this place. It is more than a structure. It is a lasting example of resilience and resourcefulness. It stands as a quiet symbol of knowledge passed through generations, a place where farmers learned to live with the land, adjust to changing seasons, and endure difficult winters. The shelter has fulfilled its purpose. It has kept the storm outside, providing warmth, safety, and rest. The work of survival continues, but for now, the structure stands firm. The fire has reduced to a gentle glow, and the stillness of the night surrounds you. Outside, the snow continues to fall, but inside, you remain safe. The storm has passed, and the shelter has proven its strength. You are protected. You are warm. And tonight you can rest peacefully. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but for now, the cycle of survival pauses. The shelter, built with care and determination, has carried you through another storm. And tonight, it provides the peace and safety that only a well-built home can offer. The world outside remains covered in a soft layer of snow. Moonlight reflects across the landscape, as if nature itself has paused in quiet stillness. The storm has passed, yet its lingering presence is still felt in the deep, unbroken silence. Inside the shelter, however, there is a calm stillness that surrounds you like a protective cocoon. The hearth, now reduced to embers, continues to warm the room, offering a gentle reminder of the day's endurance. You are safe, secure, and surrounded by a shelter that has withstood yet another test of nature. As you settle into the comfort of the shelter, a strong sense of gratitude fills you. The storm may have raged outside, but this small home has proven to be more than just a physical space. It stands as a symbol of survival, a reflection of the knowledge passed down through generations of farmers. These homes were not built only to provide cover. They were designed to endure, to protect, and to support life even in the harshest conditions. The materials that form your shelter are simple, yet remarkable in their ability to resist the severity of the outside world. The thatched roof, which required careful upkeep to prevent the weight of snow from collapsing it, was one of the most effective solutions for staying warm during winter. Layers of straw and reed acted as natural insulation, trapping heat inside while allowing snow to settle on top. This extra layer helped keep the temperature inside the shelter more stable, even during the coldest nights. The walls made of wattle and daub also played an essential role. The process of weaving branches to create the framework, then covering them with a mixture of mud, clay, and straw, was a simple yet efficient method of blocking cold winds. Once applied, the daub acted as a seal, reducing drafts and helping retain warmth inside the home. Despite their rustic appearance, the walls were designed to keep out harsh elements while still allowing the structure to breathe. Moisture could escape, preventing dampness that might otherwise lead to decay. Every part of the home, from the thatched roof to the wattle and daub walls, functioned in balance with the surrounding land. The medieval farmer did not simply build a house. They created a structure closely connected to the environment, shaped by the natural world around it. Every detail, from the materials selected to the overall design, reflected a clear understanding of the land's rhythms and seasonal cycles. The shelter was built to exist alongside nature, not to oppose it. At the center of the home, the hearth remained the most vital feature. Without it, the shelter would have been little more than an empty structure. The fire provided warmth, light, and a place for the family to gather. As you sit near the hearth, the last embers giving off a soft light, you begin to understand that the life of a medieval farmer, though filled with hard labor and constant challenges, was also one of deep connection to the earth and its seasons. Each winter storm and every cold night tested the strength of the shelter, ensuring it could endure nature's pressures. The work of building and maintaining it, while tiring, was also rewarding. It represented a form of living in balance with the surrounding world, an unspoken agreement between the farmer and the land. The farmer offered effort and care, and the land responded with sustenance and protection. The structure you now sit in was not created all at once. It developed over time, shaped by seasonal rhythms and knowledge passed down through generations. The thatched roof, though somewhat delicate, was an effective solution for insulation. Layers of straw and reed were carefully arranged to trap heat inside while allowing snow to settle on top, adding another layer of insulation against the cold. The roof was not just a physical covering. It represented a careful balance between human skill and the demands of nature. In return for the farmer's effort, it retained warmth, shielding the family from winter's harsh conditions. The walls, made of wattle and daub, a mixture of earth, straw, and clay, had their own understated strength. They were not perfectly smooth or completely airtight, but they were reliable and solid. Their purpose was simple: to block the wind, reduce the impact of frost, and keep warmth inside. The combination of wood and mud created a durable and practical barrier. The way these walls allowed moisture to escape while still preventing cold air from entering showed a clear understanding of the environment. These were not just walls. They reflected the farmer's knowledge and experience, designed to keep the family safe from both cold and damp conditions. As you sit in the quiet, the faint scent of burning wood still present. A deep appreciation for the shelter grows. The medieval farmer understood how to build a home that could endure. They used the materials available along with their own effort to create something capable of lasting through difficult winters. The hearth was central to this design. It was not only a source of heat but the core of the home. It provided light, warmth, and a place for gathering. Without it, the shelter would have been cold and empty. With it, the space became livable and welcoming. Animals also played an important role. They were not only sources of food or labor but partners in survival. The warmth from their bodies helped maintain heat inside the shelter during the coldest nights. Although caring for them required effort, they contributed an additional layer of warmth, making conditions more manageable. In return, the farmer provided them with protection and care, ensuring they had food and shelter. This mutual dependence between humans and animals was essential for survival in medieval life. Tonight, as the fire dims and the room settles into a soft darkness, you reflect on the effort that went into creating this place. It is more than a structure. It is a lasting example of resilience and resourcefulness. It stands as a quiet symbol of knowledge passed through generations, a place where farmers learned to live with the land, adjust to changing seasons, and endure difficult winters. The shelter has fulfilled its purpose. It has kept the storm outside, providing warmth, safety, and rest. The work of survival continues, but for now, the structure stands firm. The fire has reduced to a gentle glow, and the stillness of the night surrounds you. Outside, the snow continues to fall, but inside, you remain safe. The storm has passed, and the shelter has proven its strength. You are protected. You are warm. And tonight you can rest peacefully. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but for now, the cycle of survival pauses. The shelter, built with care and determination, has carried you through another storm. And tonight, It provides the peace and safety that only a well-built home can offer. The world outside remains covered in a soft layer of snow. Moonlight reflects across the landscape, as if nature itself has paused in quiet stillness. The storm has passed, yet its lingering presence is still felt in the deep, unbroken silence. Inside the shelter, however, there is a calm stillness that surrounds you like a protective cocoon. The hearth, now reduced to embers, continues to warm the room, offering a gentle reminder of the day's endurance. You are safe, secure, and surrounded by a shelter that has withstood yet another test of nature. As you settle into the comfort of the shelter, a strong sense of gratitude fills you. The storm may have raged outside, but this small home has proven to be more than just a physical space. It stands as a symbol of survival, a reflection of the knowledge passed down through generations of farmers. These homes were not built only to provide cover. They were designed to endure, to protect, and to support life even in the harshest conditions. The materials that form your shelter are simple, yet remarkable in their ability to resist the severity of the outside world. The thatched roof, which required careful upkeep to prevent the weight of snow from collapsing it, was one of the most effective solutions for staying warm during winter. Layers of straw and reed acted as natural insulation, trapping heat inside while allowing snow to settle on top. This extra layer helped keep the temperature inside the shelter more stable, even during the coldest nights. The walls made of wattle and daub also played an essential role. The process of weaving branches to create the framework, then covering them with a mixture of mud, clay, and straw, was a simple yet efficient method of blocking cold winds. Once applied, the daub acted as a seal, reducing drafts and helping retain warmth inside the home. Despite their rustic appearance, the walls were designed to keep out harsh elements while still allowing the structure to breathe. Moisture could escape, preventing dampness that might otherwise lead to decay. Every part of the home, from the thatched roof to the wattle and daub walls, functioned in balance with the surrounding land. The medieval farmer did not simply build a house. They created a structure closely connected to the environment, shaped by the natural world around it. Every detail, from the materials selected to the overall design, reflected a clear understanding of the land's rhythms and seasonal cycles. The shelter was built to exist alongside nature, not to oppose it. At the center of the home, the hearth remained the most vital feature. Without it, the shelter would have been little more than an empty structure. The fire provided warmth, light, and a place for the family to gather. It was the key element that made the home livable during long winter months. Its warmth not only protected the family from the cold but also offered the light needed to move through the dark nights. Around the fire, meals were prepared, stories were told, and family connections were strengthened. The hearth was, in many ways, the lifeline of the medieval home. However, maintaining the hearth required constant effort. Firewood needed to be collected, cut, and stored in preparation for winter. The fire itself had to be regularly tended to keep it burning. While the heat it provided was essential, it came at a cost. Gathering fuel demanded time and energy, and without a steady supply, the fire would fade, leaving the family exposed to the harsh cold. The animals kept within the shelter were equally important for survival. Their presence, especially during the coldest nights, helped maintain a more stable temperature inside the home. Sharing space with livestock was necessary during winter, when the cold could become life-threatening. These animals were not only sources of food and labor, they also became companions in the effort to survive. The farmer cared for them by providing food and shelter, and in return, the animals shared their warmth, helping the family endure the worst conditions. As you sit by the fire, feeling its warmth slowly fade with the final embers, you are reminded of how this shelter has allowed you to endure the storm. It has fulfilled its purpose, protecting you from nature's force. The wind may still move outside and the snow may continue to fall, but within these walls, you remain safe. The shelter has kept you warm, dry, and protected. The effort required to build and maintain this home was not only physical. It represented dedication and understanding, reflecting the farmer's knowledge of the land and its cycles. The shelter was not just a place to rest. It was a place to live, to adapt, and to survive. And as you lie down tonight, knowing you are secure within its walls, You recognize the effort invested in this small, modest home. Tomorrow will bring new responsibilities and new challenges, but for now, you can rest. The storm outside has passed, and the shelter has endured its force. You are warm, safe, and secure. The work of the medieval farmer is never truly finished, but tonight, there is peace in knowing that your shelter will continue to protect you, just as it has for generations before. The fire fades, the wind settles, and the shelter stands firm against the night. The darkness continues in quiet stillness, the room now filled with soft shadows as the last embers dim. Outside, the silence is deep, broken only by the faint movement of snow shifting in the gentle wind. Inside, however, there is calm reassurance in the strength of the walls. The thatched roof remains steady, and the warmth of the hearth still lingers in the air. The storm has passed, and the world beyond feels distant from the comfort you have created within. You take a slow breath, appreciating the warmth and the sense of safety that surrounds you. A quiet feeling of gratitude emerges as you reflect on the value of your shelter. It is more than just protection. It is a refuge, carefully built through the knowledge and resourcefulness of those who endured many winters before you. This modest home has done more than shield you from harsh conditions. It has supported the cycle of life year after year. From the roof that protected you from snow to the fire that kept you warm, each element of the shelter worked together to ensure survival. The materials used in building your home may seem basic: wood, straw, and clay, but in the medieval world, these were essential to survival. Each material was chosen not only because it was available, but because of its specific qualities suited to difficult conditions. The thatched roof, often viewed as simple, was actually a highly effective solution for insulation. The layers of straw, reed, or grass were carefully arranged to allow snow to settle on top, creating an additional insulating layer. Providing an additional layer of insulation that helped retain heat inside the shelter. The snow itself, though cold and unwelcome as it fell, played an important role in keeping the interior warmer during the winter months. As you sit near the hearth, the final embers slowly fading, you reflect on the resourcefulness required to create a shelter capable of withstanding the strongest storms. The walls made of wattle and daub may appear rough and basic, but they were carefully designed to function as effective insulation, keeping the cold out and the warmth inside. The mixture of clay, straw, and mud covering the woven branches formed a durable surface that offered both strength and flexibility, allowing the structure to breathe while still protecting against the elements. Then there is the hearth, the center of the home, the main source of warmth and light. Without the fire, the shelter would have been little more than a cold and empty space. The fire was the focal point of life in the medieval home. It was not only where meals were prepared and eaten, but also where stories were shared, relationships were strengthened, and long winter nights became manageable. The warmth from the hearth extended beyond physical comfort. It represented family, community, and shared endurance. However, maintaining the hearth required continuous effort. Firewood had to be collected and stored carefully, and it needed to remain dry to burn efficiently. The fire demanded regular attention to keep it alive throughout the night. Managing the fire was one of many tasks that required patience, planning, and consistency. Yet, it was this steady care that allowed the shelter to remain livable during the harshest winters. Without the fire, the shelter would exist in name only, a place to rest, but not a place to truly live. As the fire dims and the warmth begins to fade, you recognize that while the storm outside has passed, the work of survival continues. The shelter has fulfilled its purpose. It has protected you, kept you warm, and allowed you to rest. But tomorrow, the work resumes. There are always responsibilities to handle, improvements to make, and preparations for the next storm. The life of a medieval farmer was never simple, but it was built on continuous effort, adapting, learning, and enduring. Tomorrow, you will wake to a world still covered in snow, still cold, and still demanding, but you will be prepared. The shelter, with its thatched roof and strong walls, will continue to stand firm against changing weather. The hearth will be lit again, restoring warmth to the home. The animals will be cared for, firewood will be restocked, and the natural cycles of life will carry on as they always have. As you drift into sleep, surrounded by the fading warmth of the hearth, A sense of calm settles over you. The storm has ended. The shelter remains strong. You are safe, and for now that is enough. The work will continue, but tonight is for rest. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but in this moment, you are secure. The shelter has fulfilled its role, protecting you from the outside world. The fire now flickers faintly, its light reduced to a soft glow of embers. Yet the warmth still lingers in the air, a quiet reminder of the shelter's strength. The storm outside has become a memory, and the snow now rests in stillness under pale moonlight. The wind that once pressed against the walls has softened into a faint whisper. In its absence, the world feels paused in calm silence. Inside the shelter, there is a deep sense of quiet, the kind of stillness that comes only after danger has passed. You settle into the warmth of your cloak, the familiar weight of wool grounding you as you prepare for rest. The hearth, though no longer burning brightly, has fulfilled its purpose. It provided light, warmth, and comfort through the long hours of the storm, and now, in its final moments, it offers a quiet sense of completion. In the glow of the embers, you feel the weight of the day ease away, knowing that you are secure. The shelter has stood firm through the storm, allowing you to experience the simple reassurance that it will continue to endure whatever nature brings next. This sense of peace, however, is the result of continuous effort invested in the shelter. In medieval farming life, building and maintaining a home required constant attention. There were no pauses, no relief from the responsibility of ensuring the structure remained strong through every season. Every element, the thatched roof, the wattle and daub walls, and the hearth, was the outcome of careful planning and consistent work. While these features may seem simple by modern standards, they formed the foundation of survival in the medieval world. They enabled the farmer to endure storms, withstand cold, and find moments of rest within the shelter they had built. You reflect on the roof, the modest thatch, which, though often viewed as a basic feature, was in fact a highly effective design of its time. The layers of straw or reed, arranged with care to allow snow to settle while retaining heat inside, acted as natural insulation. The design was not only meant to block rain or wind but also to use natural elements to its advantage. The snow, despite its weight, helped preserve warmth within the shelter, turning the home into a space that could provide comfort despite difficult conditions. The walls, formed from woven branches and coated with mud and clay, may appear rough, but their simplicity made them ideal for winter conditions. They were flexible, breathable, and allowed moisture to escape, preventing dampness. At the same time, they blocked cold air and helped retain heat from the hearth, where the family gathered to share meals, conversation, and companionship. Without these walls, the fire would have been far less effective. Without the fire, the shelter would have been little more than a basic structure exposed to the cold. Together, through careful construction, these elements transformed the shelter into something more than a structure. It became a home. The hearth itself, the center of all activity, was more than a source of heat and light. It was the core of the household, where daily life came together. Cooking, conversation, and warmth all revolved around it. The fire was not only necessary, it symbolized life itself, representing the energy that sustained the home even as winter conditions threatened survival. The simple routine of gathering wood and maintaining the fire served as a daily reminder of the effort required to endure. It was not only about staying warm, it was about sustaining life within the home and ensuring the well-being of everyone inside. Yet, the effort involved in building and maintaining a shelter was not limited to survival alone. It also created a sense of connection. The shelter was built not only with effort, but with a deep understanding of the environment. It reflected knowledge passed down through generations, knowledge of which materials worked best, which methods kept the cold out, and which designs allowed a family to live, work, and endure. It carried the weight of history, shaped by countless farmers who faced the same challenges and used similar materials to build their homes. As you sit by the hearth, you feel the steady rhythm of the night settling in. The storm outside has left behind a stillness that feels unusual yet comforting. You are warm, safe, and secure in knowing that the shelter has stood the test of time. It has endured the storm, and so have you. Though built from simple materials, its design and care carry the legacy of those who came before, those who constructed similar homes to survive harsh winters and the constant demands of medieval life. As the embers burn lower and the night deepens, a sense of calm takes over. Tomorrow will bring its own responsibilities, but for tonight, the shelter has provided everything you need. It has offered warmth, protection, and a place to rest. You are safe, and for now that is enough. The storm has passed, and with the shelter standing strong around you, you are prepared for whatever the next day brings. The night continues quietly, the fire now reduced to a faint glow of embers that pulse gently in the darkness. The warmth of the hearth still lingers in the air, a soft reminder of the shelter's steady presence. Outside, the world is covered in snow, the storm now a distant memory. The winds, once strong and persistent, have calmed, leaving behind a stillness that settles across the land. In this moment of quiet, you sit within your shelter, surrounded by the strength of the walls, the remaining warmth of the fire, and the safety of the home you have built. There is something reassuring about this space. It stands firm against the elements, reflecting the care and knowledge that went into its construction. Every part, the thatched roof, the wattle and daub walls, and the hearth, was created with survival in mind. Each element was designed to work with nature, not against it, forming a space that provides both protection and comfort. The storm outside may have been intense, but within these walls, you remained protected. The storm has passed, yet the shelter continues to stand as strong as before. You reflect on the design of the shelter and the understanding behind its construction. The thatched roof, though simple in appearance, is an effective solution for insulation. Layers of straw, reed, or grass were carefully arranged to trap heat inside while allowing snow to gather on top, creating an added insulating layer. The snow, while cold when falling, becomes an important part of the shelter's defense once it settles. Although the roof required regular maintenance to prevent collapse under heavy snow, when properly cared for, it served as a reliable barrier against the elements. The walls made from wattle and daub were another essential feature in maintaining warmth and protection. Interwoven branches coated with clay, mud, and straw created a strong insulating barrier that kept out wind and cold. The walls were not completely sealed, but their structure allowed the shelter to breathe, preventing moisture from building up inside. This natural ventilation helped keep the interior dry, reducing the risk of rot and damage. Then there was the hearth, the central feature of the home. It provided not only warmth but also light, and it served as the focal point of daily life. Meals were prepared there, clothes were dried, and the family gathered around it to share conversation and warmth during long winter nights. Without the hearth, the shelter would have been little more than a place to sleep. With it, the home became a space where life could continue, even during the darkest months of the year. The hearth was not only functional, it also represented life itself. Its warmth served as a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, the farmer and their family could endure. However, maintaining the hearth required continuous effort. Firewood had to be gathered, the fire carefully managed, and the hearth kept clean. A shortage of fuel could determine whether a family survived the winter or faced serious risk. The act of tending the fire, of keeping it alive, reflected the farmer's commitment to survival. It was consistent, demanding work. Yet it also provided comfort, warmth, and a connection to the land. The shelter itself was more than just a place to live. It was a carefully designed space that allowed the farmer to function even in difficult conditions. Though simple in materials, its construction reflected a deep understanding of the environment. The use of thatch, the wattle and daub walls, and the placement of the hearth were all deliberate choices, each selected for its ability to work with natural conditions. Building this home was not just about creating a structure. It was about understanding the land, adapting to seasonal changes, and using available resources effectively to ensure survival. Tonight, as the fire fades and the last embers dim, you realize how much effort went into creating this shelter. The medieval farmer did not simply build a house. They created a space capable of enduring the harshest winters. The shelter you now rest in is the result of generations of learning, adapting, and refining techniques. It was built with care, patience, and a clear understanding of natural cycles. The shelter was designed not only to protect from the elements but to allow life to continue despite them. As you settle in, The quiet comfort of the shelter surrounds you like a steady presence. The storm outside may have passed, but within these walls, you remain safe, warm, and protected. This modest structure stands as a reflection of the resilience of those who came before, those who built similar homes to withstand severe winters and powerful storms. And tonight, as the embers fade into the stillness of the night, you recognize the value of these simple yet effective homes. Tomorrow will bring new tasks and new challenges, but for now, you can rest. The shelter has endured both time and storm. It has kept you warm, safe, and secure, just as it has for many generations. The work of survival does not end, but tonight, there is rest. The fire may be out, but the shelter remains strong, steady, and prepared for whatever the next day may bring. The warmth from the hearth is nearly gone, yet its lingering comfort fills the room, easing your senses. The embers continue to dim, leaving the space in soft, quiet darkness. Outside, the wind has stopped, and the snow has settled into a calm, even layer. The world is covered in stillness. Silent yet steadfast, the shelter stands like a guardian against the world outside. Within its walls, words are unnecessary. The sense of safety is enough. You inhale deeply, letting the calm settle over you. The storm has passed, but the shelter endures, a reminder of the care, skill, and resilience invested in its creation. Imagining life without this home feels almost impossible. It has been far more than a place to sleep. It has been a refuge through harsh winters and testing conditions. As you sit in the quiet of the night, surrounded by lingering warmth from the fire's final glow, you feel a profound connection to the generations of farmers who relied on these same principles for survival. You reflect on the work behind every detail of this shelter. Each design choice prioritized survival. The thatched roof, shedding snow and retaining heat, forms the first line of defense. Carefully layered, it requires regular maintenance, with farmers clearing snow to prevent collapse. Though simple, it provides excellent insulation, which, combined with the natural warmth of the walls, establishes a cozy, safe environment. The WLE and door walls were crafted to balance ventilation with protection. Not airtight, yet breathable, they help maintain a dry, healthy interior even in damp winters. At the center of it all is the hearth. More than a source of heat, it provides light and comfort. Around it, families gather, share meals, and find reassurance in one another's presence. Tending the fire, gathering wood, stoking the flames, keeping the hearth functional, requires constant attention, yet it is this very care that enables survival. Without it, the structure would be mere walls and a roof. Even with a solid roof, sturdy walls, and a working hearth, the shelter's true strength lies in the connection to the land. Medieval farmers understood the delicate balance of working with nature while respecting its power. From construction to daily upkeep, every action reflected awareness of the environment. The shelter is not only a home, it is a manifestation of the farmer's knowledge, skill, and adaptability. Every material, sourced from the land, was used wisely, maximizing what nature provided. Sitting by the embers, you sense the bond between the shelter and the earth. The roof, walls, and hearth each symbolize careful harmony with the environment. This is not just a house, it is a sanctuary, a refuge crafted in collaboration with nature. The storm outside has passed, leaving warmth, peace, and a quiet sense of security within. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, yet the shelter will continue to serve its purpose, providing protection, warmth, and a space for life to unfold. Snow may return, winds may rise, but the home will endure. For tonight, however, you rest knowing you are safe. The fire dims, leaving a soft warmth. As the night deepens, you close your eyes, ready to face tomorrow, confident that the shelter will remain steadfast. The night continues quietly. The fire's warmth is now a distant presence, while outside, untouched snow reflects the moon's gentle light. The storm that once roared has faded to a distant whisper. Inside, the occasional creak of wooden beams settling is the only sound. The lingering warmth reassures you of the safety your home provides. Moments like these remind us of the shelter's value and the effort required to create it. Life for the medieval farmer was not easy. Every day demanded labor, skill, and attention to the land and seasons. Yet now, within these walls, there is profound peace. The storm outside, though fierce, was no match for the shelter, whose roof, walls, and hearth testified to the farmer's enduring expertise. Knowledge refined through generations, honed by trial, and perfected to survive. The thatched roof, while simple, is crucial. Layers of straw and reed trap heat while shedding snow, providing insulation and stability. The lee and doorbed walls act as a shield against cold winds while allowing the shelter to breathe. Coated with mud, straw, and clay, they block drafts yet maintain ventilation. The hearth remains central. Without it, the space would merely exist, not live. Life happens around the hearth: meals, stories, warmth, and shared moments. Stoking the fire and maintaining the hearth is continuous work, yet it sustains the shelter's comfort. Survival depends on these elements working together: roof, walls, hearth, and the bond with the land that makes the home more than a structure. It makes it a refuge. It is more than just a source of heat. It represents life itself, a reminder of the resilience needed to endure the harshest months. As darkness deepens, you consider the effort invested in this space. The shelter is the product of both knowledge and hard work. Every layer of thatch, every branch in the walls, every log in the fire reflects the skill of those who built it. Their survival relied on the very shelter you now occupy, and their wisdom remains embedded in the materials that protect you today. The animals sharing this space play an equally important role. Often overlooked, their presence adds warmth and security. Livestock, with their body heat, help stabilize the temperature during the coldest nights. This mutual dependence between humans and animals highlights the delicate balance necessary for survival. The animals rely on the shelter for safety, while you rely on them for warmth, labor, and sustenance. This symbiosis is essential for medieval life and forms the very fabric of the home. Sitting in the quiet, feeling the lingering warmth, you realize the significance of this place. It is not merely a resting spot, it is a sanctuary. It shields you from storms and provides a foundation to thrive in a harsh, often unforgiving world. This shelter embodies generations of knowledge, built to ensure life continues even under the toughest conditions. Tomorrow, survival work will resume, the hearth will burn again, animals will share their warmth, and the shelter will continue its role. For now, you can rest. The calm night deepens. The embers' glow fades. Outside, snow blankets the land like a silent guardian, and the wind has ceased its harsh whispering. The only sound is the occasional creak as the structure settles under the cold. Inside, peace prevails. The shelter stands resilient, its structure a promise of survival, and tonight, it has fulfilled that promise. The effort that went into constructing and maintaining this home may have been exhausting, but moments like these reveal its true value. This modest space reflects generations of hard work, ingenuity, and adaptation to the land's rhythms. Medieval farmers, with only natural resources at hand, built homes capable of enduring severe winters, supporting heavy snow, and shielding inhabitants from the biting cold. Resting safely inside, you recognize how vital these homes were, the care devoted to every detail. Consider the thatched roof. Though it seems simple, it was an ingenious solution. Carefully layered, it trapped heat and offered protection from snow accumulation. The snow itself became part of the system, its weight reinforcing insulation. Farmers understood this balance. Snow could both threaten and support the shelter. Roofs required maintenance to avoid collapse, yet the design harmonized with the elements instead of opposing them. The walls, woven from branches and coated with clay, mud, and straw, were equally crucial. They provided insulation while allowing ventilation, managing moisture, preventing dampness, and enabling the shelter to breathe. Simple materials, yet combined brilliantly to protect and sustain life. These walls are evidence of a deep understanding of the land and the farmer's ability to use available resources to ensure survival. At the center was the hearth, now a bed of glowing embers. More than warmth, it was life itself, a source of light, heat, and a place for family to gather, eat, and share stories. Maintaining the fire was a constant task, but a necessary one. It symbolized the farmer's determination to thrive, not just survive. The animals in the shelter were vital partners. Their warmth stabilized interior temperatures, aiding both their survival and yours. This close coexistence during harsh months demonstrates the balance between humans and nature. The shelter relied on this relationship to keep everyone safe and warm. Reflecting on the shelter, you understand that the work never truly ends. Roofs must be cleared, walls repaired, hearths tended. Life was a continuous cycle of learning, adjusting, and adapting. There were no perfect solutions, only persistent effort to stay ahead of cold, wind, and snow. Tonight, the shelter stands firm. It has withstood the storm, kept you warm, and allowed rest. Tomorrow, survival continues, replenishing firewood, caring for animals, inspecting the roof. The challenges outside never cease, but inside, there is peace. The work may be endless, yet for now, the shelter stands, ready to protect you once again. The storm may return, but here, you are safe. The cold may press against the walls, yet tonight the shelter is sufficient. The fire may burn low, but its warmth endures. Snow may weigh on the roof, but it sheds naturally, keeping heat inside. The walls may be simple, yet they stand firm, holding back the cold and preserving life within. Inside you are safe. Tomorrow will come, but tonight you rest. The shelter has done its work, and for that, you feel gratitude. The storm has passed, leaving behind a lingering peace. Outside, the world is still. Snow falls gently now, in a quiet rhythm. The air remains crisp and biting, yet inside, warmth lingers, a calm refuge from the cold. The fire has burned down to a bed of glowing embers, casting a soft glow over the walls. Though the hearth's heat is fading, the shelter itself continues to protect. Its roof and walls remain steadfast against the cold. As you settle into this comfort, a sense of appreciation grows. The shelter proves its value again. Its walls, built from WLE and Dorb, simple yet sturdy, block the wind and snow. The thatched roof, heavy with snow during the storm, has held strong, offering protection and insulation. The hearth, though no longer ablaze, provided the warmth essential for surviving the storm. Each of these elements, humble on their own, combine to create a sanctuary. Survival relies not only on endurance but on the careful balance of human skill and the natural world. Every part of this shelter, from roof to walls, was built with intention. The thatch, while appearing fragile, is a clever solution for insulation and protection. It works with nature. Snow adds insulation, the thatch retains warmth inside, and sheds cold outside. Though exposed to harsh conditions, the roof stands firm. The medieval farmer understood that constant maintenance was necessary, and tonight, that care proves its worth. The walls tell a similar story. WLE and Dorb construction, though simple, ingeniously uses local resources. Branches woven together, reinforced with mud, clay, and straw, form a strong barrier against cold winds and snow. At the same time, the design allows for ventilation, keeping the shelter dry and livable. In a world without modern tools, medieval farmers learned to work with what was available, creating homes capable of enduring severe winters. As you sit in the stillness of the night, you recognize that the shelter's strength lies in its simplicity. Every material, every design choice, was aimed at warmth, safety, and survival. Nothing is excessive, all is necessary to withstand nature's challenges. Walls, roof, hearth, even animals, exist in a delicate balance, each contributing to the family's well-being. More than the structure itself, survival depended on knowledge passed down through generations, the skill to work with nature, and the persistence to adapt. Tonight, as snow falls and the last embers fade, you understand the deep connection between the shelter and its occupants. It is more than a physical space. It is the product of years of learning, adaptation, and survival. Medieval farmers did not just build houses, they created sanctuaries. Spaces that allowed them to endure storms and cold, to survive harsh winters and emerge on the other side. Tomorrow brings new tasks: repairs, tending to animals, checking the roof, and maintaining the fire. Yet for now, you can rest. The storm has passed, the shelter stands firm, and you are safe. The hearth will be rekindled tomorrow, the animals cared for, the roof cleared. Survival is ongoing, but tonight the shelter fulfills its purpose. It has kept you warm, protected you, and offered a moment of peace. Closing your eyes, you feel quiet satisfaction, safe, secure, and warm. For tonight, that is enough. The storm may return, yet the shelter will endure as it always has. When morning comes, you will rise ready to face the world, confident that the shelter will provide protection. The night deepens. The fire embers fade, leaving a lingering warmth. The shelter, silent now except for occasional creaks, remains strong. Outside, the wind has died, snow has calmed, and peace prevails. The storm has passed, leaving stillness inside and out, a stillness that echoes the shelter's quiet resolve. You stretch under your blankets, feeling the room's warmth slowly fade with the dying fire. The cold is present but manageable. The sturdy walls and insulated roof have kept the harsh elements at bay. The layers of straw and reed that form the thatch shed snow effectively and retain the heat needed to survive the night. Simple, yet effective, this structure was crafted with care, guided by centuries of knowledge. Those who lived here before endured brutal storms, relentless cold, and endless survival tasks. Their hands shaped this home, applying techniques honed over generations to withstand nature's fury. The walls of WLE and Dorb demonstrate ingenuity. Wood, clay, straw, and mud may seem basic today, yet together they form a barrier that blocks wind and preserves warmth. Their flexibility allows the walls to breathe, preventing dampness while maintaining comfort. The shelter, humble in materials, is a masterwork of practical design. It is never about excess, only what is necessary to survive. Roof, walls, and hearth combine to create a resilient structure. And at the center, the hearth remains the heart of the home. Though the fire has dwindled to glowing embers, it symbolizes life itself. Without it, the home would be empty, just walls and a roof. The fire is what brings life to the shelter, turning it from a simple refuge into a space full of warmth and activity. It gives heat, yes, but it also lights up the dark winter nights and serves as the heart of family life. Around it, meals are prepared, stories are shared, and family bonds are strengthened through shared moments. Though small now, the fire is a constant reminder of the effort required to survive. It demands attention, collecting firewood, keeping the flames alive, but without it, life would be much harsher. Tonight, as the final embers fade, you recognize the delicate balance between the shelter and the surrounding world. The storm has ended, yet nature's cycles persist, and the shelter must be cared for. It is a living structure, needing constant upkeep to remain functional. Roofs are checked after each snowfall, walls repaired, and the fire maintained to ensure warmth. This diligence, though tiring, is a modest price for the safety and comfort the shelter provides. The animals living alongside you also play a crucial role. Their presence adds warmth, particularly on the coldest nights. Sharing close quarters with them can be challenging, but it is necessary. They receive protection from the elements, and in return, their warmth helps sustain the livability of the shelter. This mutual dependence between human and animal is a core aspect of medieval life, ensuring that everyone within the shelter is cared for, even in extreme conditions. You glance once more at the shelter, the dying embers casting a gentle glow across the walls, and feel the comfort of being home. The storm has passed, and you are safe. Tomorrow, the cycle of work and maintenance will resume. More tasks, more repairs, more preparations for the next storm. But tonight, you rest with the assurance that your shelter has protected you. The care, effort, and knowledge invested in this space have allowed survival and will continue to support life, no matter what challenges the outside world brings. The fire may have died, yet the warmth lingers. The storm is over, and the shelter remains steadfast. For tonight, that is enough. The night settles into calm. The final embers of the fire now offer only faint warmth in the cold, silent air. Outside, snow falls softly, blanketing the earth in pristine white. The storm that raged earlier has quieted, leaving behind the peaceful stillness of a world taking a breath. Inside the shelter, there is calm as well. It has endured the storm, and you sit enveloped in the comfort of knowing that, for now, all is well. Wrapped in your cloak, A deep sense of safety and comfort fills you. Though battered, the shelter stands firm. The roof, covered lightly in snow, is a testament to clever design. Its thatch, though simple, was constructed to shed snow while trapping heat. The walls, made from lee and daub, block the wind and retain warmth. And the hearth, now quiet but still radiating heat, remains the home's center, providing light, warmth, and safety through the storm. You reflect on the labor behind this home, a place that enables survival even under harsh conditions. The medieval farmer's life, though demanding, relied on knowledge and respect for the land. Every material, every technique, worked in harmony with nature. The thatch, the lee, the daub, the hearth, each demonstrates the farmer's ability to adapt to seasonal challenges, crafting a safe space for family. This is not just a dwelling, it is a carefully designed survival system that has endured countless winters. Its simplicity is its strength. Nothing is superfluous, every element serves a purpose. The structure is humble, the materials simple, yet the impact is profound. It protects against the cold while providing a space where life continues, where the family can gather, work, and rest safely. The medieval farmer understood that survival was not only about enduring the cold but creating an environment that allows life to persist despite adversity. Sitting in the shelter's quiet, with the fire's warmth lingering, you sense the deep connection between the farmer and the home. The shelter was more than a building. It was a partnership with the land. The farmer shaped it, and in turn, it shaped the farmer's life. Building, maintaining, and living in it created a constant cycle, through which the farmer and family endured storms and hardships year after year. Tonight, as snow falls and the wind ceases, you rest secure, knowing the shelter has fulfilled its role. It kept you warm and safe, and it will continue to do so. The shelter is a testament to resilience, ingenuity, and understanding of the land, a space crafted with knowledge, care, and unwavering effort. Tomorrow, the cycle resumes, gathering firewood, maintaining the shelter, tending animals. But for now, you rest. The storm is over. The hearth's warmth remains. The shelter stands strong. Outside, peace prevails. For tonight, at least, you are at peace. The storm has passed, the shelter remains. Night deepens, and within its stillness, the shelter is a quiet refuge. Snow continues to cover the land, soft and untouched, faintly glowing under moonlight. The storm is gone, leaving only calm. Inside, the hearth's heat is nearly gone, but its comfort lingers, filling the shelter's bones. You recline, cocooned in warmth, feeling safe and secure. This moment is a quiet reminder of the care and effort invested in creating this home. The fire is what breathes life into the shelter, turning it from a simple refuge into a vibrant space. It provides warmth, yes, but it also lights the dark winter nights and serves as the heart of family life. It is where meals are prepared, stories are exchanged, and family bonds are strengthened through shared moments. Though small now, the fire constantly reminds you of the effort required to endure. It demands attention, gathering wood, stoking the flames, and maintaining heat. Without it, survival would be far more difficult. Tonight, as the final glow of the fire fades, you are reminded of the delicate balance between the shelter and the surrounding world. The storm has passed, yet nature continues its cycles, and the shelter must be cared for. It is a living structure that requires constant upkeep. The roof must be inspected after every snowfall. The walls must remain in good condition, and the fire must be kept alive to guarantee warmth. This ongoing vigilance, though tiring, is a small price for the safety and comfort the shelter provides. The animals that share this space play a critical role as well. Their warmth contributes to keeping the shelter habitable, especially during the coldest nights. Close quarters between humans and animals present challenges, but they are necessary. The animals offer warmth, and in return, the shelter offers protection from the elements. This mutual reliance between farmer and animal is a cornerstone of medieval life, ensuring that everyone inside remains cared for, even under harsh conditions. You take a final look around the shelter. The soft, fading glow of the embers casts a gentle hue on the walls, reminding you of the comfort of home. The storm has ended, and you are safe. Tomorrow, the routine of work and maintenance will resume. More tasks, repairs, and preparations for whatever challenges may come. But tonight, you rest with the reassurance that your shelter has protected you and will continue to do so. The care, skill, and knowledge poured into creating this space have enabled survival and will ensure life thrives, regardless of the outside world. The fire is out, yet warmth lingers. The storm has passed, but the shelter stands steadfast. For tonight, that is enough. The night settles into a deep, calm rhythm. The last embers are little more than faint whispers of heat in the cold air. Outside, snow falls softly, covering the earth in a smooth, unbroken blanket. The storm that once raged has quieted, leaving only the peaceful aftermath as the world pauses. Inside, the shelter mirrors that calm. It has endured the storm, and you sit enveloped in the reassurance that, for now, all is well. Leaning back in your cloak, a profound sense of comfort and security fills you. Though the storm battered the land, the shelter remains strong. The roof, now dusted with snow, demonstrates the ingenuity behind its construction. The thatch, simple in appearance, was carefully designed to shed snow, retain heat, and provide protection from the cold. The walls, built from lee and daub, block the wind and preserve the warmth of the hearth. The hearth itself, now quiet, remains the home's center, having provided light, warmth, and comfort through the storm. You reflect on the effort behind this home, a place where survival was possible even in the harshest conditions. It illustrates the medieval farmer's deep knowledge and respect for the land. Every material and technique was chosen to work with nature, not against it. The thatch, the lee, the daub, the hearth, they all demonstrate the farmer's adaptability and resourcefulness, creating a safe space for the family. This is not just a dwelling, it is a survival system that has endured through countless winters. The shelter's simplicity is itself a form of brilliance. There is nothing superfluous, every part serves a purpose. The materials are modest, the structure unassuming, yet its impact is profound. This is a home capable of withstanding nature's harshest trials, a space where life can continue, where the family can gather, work, and rest safely. The medieval farmer understood that survival extended beyond enduring cold. It was about creating a space that allowed life to persist amidst adversity. Sitting in the quiet, the lingering warmth of the hearth emphasizes the connection between the farmer and the home. The shelter was more than a building. It was a partnership with the land. The farmer shaped the shelter, and the shelter, in turn, shaped the farmer's life. The effort to build, maintain, and live within it created a continuous cycle. Through this cycle, the farmer and family endured storms, winters, and hardships year after year. Tonight, with the snow falling gently and the wind no longer howling, you rest knowing the shelter has fulfilled its role. It has kept you warm, safe, and secure through the storm, and it will continue to do so. The shelter is more than a residence. It is a testament to resilience, ingenuity, and deep understanding of the land. Crafted with care and knowledge, it embodies the persistent effort required for survival. Tomorrow, the cycle begins anew, maintaining the shelter, gathering firewood, and caring for animals. But tonight you rest. The storm has passed, the shelter stands strong, and you are safe. The hearth's warmth lingers. The world outside is calm. For tonight, you are at peace. The storm is gone. The shelter endures. As night deepens, the refuge remains still and quiet. Snow continues to cover the landscape, soft and untouched, glowing faintly under the moonlight. The storm is long gone, leaving only tranquil aftermath. Inside, the hearth's warmth has waned, but its comforting presence remains, embedded in the shelter itself. You lie back, cocooned in the warmth the shelter provides, feeling safe and secure. This moment of calm quietly honors the care and thought invested in creating this home. The storm outside tested the shelter, but it did not break it. The thatched roof, though it seems fragile, has held firm. Layers of straw and reed have insulated the interior, trapping warmth while allowing snow to settle on top, creating an extra protective layer. What once seemed like a burden now serves as an ally, helping the roof keep the cold from penetrating the shelter. This simple yet clever design reflects the deep knowledge medieval farmers had of their environment. They understood how to work with nature, make the most of available resources, and survive under harsh conditions. The walls, built from lee and dorb, a combination of woven branches, clay, straw, and mud, have also performed well. They allow the shelter to breathe, preventing moisture buildup, while the door blocks wind and cold. Though not flawless, these walls provide a stable, warm environment, demonstrating the farmer's skill in using local materials to withstand severe winters. More than just barriers, the walls are vital for keeping the family safe, warm, and dry. Then there is the hearth. The fire may be low now, but it remains the home's center. It is the heart of the shelter, the source of warmth, light, and life. Without it, the structure would be merely cold walls. The hearth brings the family together, providing heat, a place to cook, and a space to gather. Its presence ensures the shelter is not just livable, but a place where life thrives. As you rest in the warmth of the shelter tonight, you reflect on the immense effort it took to create and maintain this space. Every task, from repairing the roof after heavy snowfall to gathering firewood and stoking the hearth, requires constant attention. Yet this care has allowed the shelter to endure, offering safety and warmth through generations. The structure is more than physical. It embodies the farmer's resilience, ingenuity, and connection to the land. The animals sharing the shelter play an essential role as well. Their presence is practical and crucial. Their body heat helps maintain the interior temperature during the coldest nights. This interdependence between humans and animals is vital for survival. The animals rely on the shelter for safety, and the shelter relies on them for warmth. This mutual dependence reflects the delicate balance of resources, knowledge, and survival in the medieval world. As the fire burns lower and shadows stretch across the room, the shelter remains firm, a testament to those who lived here before. The storm has ended, yet the home stands strong, offering warmth, safety, and comfort. Tomorrow, maintenance will resume, checking the roof for snow, gathering firewood, and tending to animals. Life in the shelter is a continuous cycle, and survival is never complete. But tonight, the shelter has fulfilled its purpose. You rest, secure in its protection. Outside, snow continues to fall gently, blanketing the world in unbroken white. The storm has passed, leaving calm in its wake. Inside, the shelter mirrors this stillness. The hearth's embers have faded, leaving the space cool and quiet, yet a lingering warmth remains, a reminder of the shelter's enduring function. The fire may be gone, but its impact continues. The hearth, even without flames, remains the home's core, its warmth felt deep in the shelter's walls. The structure, thatch roof, lee and dorb walls, and central hearth, has proven its worth repeatedly. Together, these elements create a space capable of enduring the harshest winters and fiercest storms. The farmer's labor, though demanding, has produced a home that withstands time and nature's challenges. Taking a deep breath, you feel the weight of the day ease. The storm may be over, but its intensity lingers in memory. Still, the shelter has held firm. The thatched roof sheds snow while retaining heat. The walls block cold and wind. Humble in materials, yet expertly designed, the shelter offers protection, warmth, and comfort. In medieval life, such craftsmanship was essential, not a choice, but a matter of survival. The hearth, once roaring, now emits faint heat, but its significance remains. It is more than warmth. It is a gathering place, a space where life unfolds. Meals were cooked here, stories were shared, and both body and spirit were nourished. The hearth is the heart around which life revolves. Without it, the shelter is only four walls. With it, the home becomes a place to live, work, and weather life's storms. As you rest, feeling the shelter's steady presence, you recognize the generations of effort behind this moment. Roof, walls, hearth, they are not just functional, but the product of knowledge passed down through time. The medieval farmer did not merely survive. They lived in harmony with the land, understanding seasons, soil, and weather. Every part of the shelter reflects this wisdom, crafted with care, maintained with diligence, and designed to offer comfort amid adversity. Tomorrow, the work of maintaining the shelter will continue. There will always be tasks to complete, checking the roof for snow, gathering firewood, caring for the animals. Yet for tonight, there is peace. The storm has passed, and the shelter remains. It stands as a quiet testament to the farmer's resilience. Though the work never truly ends, the shelter provides a moment of rest, a place to pause amid the demands of survival. You close your eyes. The wind is now a distant memory. The shelter surrounds you with safety from the cold. The fire's warmth may have faded, but the comfort of this home, built through labor and care, remains. The storm is gone. The shelter stands firm. You are safe for now, and that is enough. The night stretches on, still and quiet, as the last warmth from the hearth drifts into the cool air. Outside, snow continues to fall softly, covering the land in a pristine, silent blanket. The wind no longer howls, and the storm is behind you. Only the faint rustle of snow settling on the roof reminds you that nature is still at work. Inside, the shelter offers peace. Strong and steady, it remains a haven, providing protection, warmth, and safety. You lie back in your blanket, feeling the steady quiet of the shelter wrap around you. The day's work is done, and the home has fulfilled its role. It has kept you warm, sheltered from the cold, and provided a space for rest. The storm, though fierce, did not break you or your home. The thatched roof, designed to shed snow, has held strong. The lee and dorb walls, though simple, have created a solid barrier against wind while keeping warmth inside. The hearth, quiet now but still warm in memory, has served not just as a source of heat, but as the heart of the home. Reflecting on the effort involved in creating this space, you recognize that every part, the roof, the walls, the hearth, was built with a deep understanding of the land and its seasons. The medieval farmer, facing nature's forces, learned to work with the land, using what it offered to create a space where life could continue through harsh winters. The thatch, the lee, and the dorb were selected carefully for their resilience. The roof, though delicate in appearance, insulates exceptionally well, keeping the shelter warm even in the coldest months. Snow accumulating on top forms an extra barrier, helping retain heat. Yet the roof is not passive. It requires ongoing maintenance, clearing snow, repairing damage, tending to it. The payoff is clear. Inside, you are secure, protected from the storm outside. The walls are equally vital. The lee and dorb construction, though modest, reflects the farmer's knowledge. The mud and clay in the dorb provide insulation, while woven branches allow the walls to breathe, preventing moisture that could cause rot. This straightforward but effective design keeps the shelter warm and safe during storms. The hearth, though now quiet, was once the center of the home. Its fire provided physical warmth, but also symbolized the care that went into this home. It offered light during long winter nights, heat to make life bearable, and a place for meals and gatherings. Tending the fire was essential for survival. The warmth it gave was more than physical. It brought comfort, making the shelter feel like a home. As night deepens and the shelter settles into peaceful stillness, a sense of satisfaction arises. The shelter has endured the storm. You are safe, warm, and surrounded by the care embedded in every part of this home. The storm has passed, but the shelter remains, a lasting testament to the ingenuity and resilience of those who built it. Tomorrow, the cycle resumes. The roof will be checked, firewood gathered, animals tended. The work of survival is never complete. But tonight, the shelter stands firm, and for now, that is enough. The fire may have burned down to embers, yet its warmth remains. The storm raged outside, but inside, there is calm. The shelter has settled into its familiar rhythm. The only sounds are the occasional rustle of wind or the gentle creak of beams adjusting to the cold. Outside, snow continues to fall gently, covering the earth in an uninterrupted blanket. The storm is a memory, yet the peace inside is tangible. The lingering warmth from the hearth fades slowly, but the shelter's strength persists. You sink deeper into your blankets. The glow of the fire diminishes, yet the sense of security remains. The shelter offers protection against the cold outside. Its walls, roof, and hearth have done their work, keeping you safe and comfortable through the storm. Tonight, the simplicity of the shelter is clear. The thatched roof, lee and dorb walls, and hearth are modest elements, Yet together they form a system of survival. They provide everything essential for life: warmth, safety, and comfort. Humble materials and simple design combine to create something greater. The care given to maintenance, fixing leaks, clearing snow, gathering firewood, ensures the shelter fulfills its purpose. Life without this space is hard to imagine. In an era when survival was a daily struggle, the shelter was a sanctuary, a place to shield against the harshness of the world. Medieval farmers did not merely build homes to keep warm, they built homes to endure the winter and sustain life despite brutal conditions. This simple shelter, the product of generations of knowledge and effort, proves its worth tonight. The thatched roof, while vulnerable to heavy snow, has done its job. Layers of straw and reed create a barrier, trapping heat inside. The snow, heavy but cooperative, adds extra insulation. The medieval farmer, aware of the need for constant maintenance, would clear the roof after every snowstorm. This care was essential for survival. The thatch, though not impervious to wear, continues to serve its purpose faithfully. The hearth had been a reliable source of warmth for centuries, offering comfort in exchange for careful attention. The walls, built from lea and daub, also played a crucial role in the shelter's strength. Woven branches formed the framework, filled with a mixture of clay, mud, and straw, creating a barrier against wind, snow, and cold. The walls were far from airtight, yet their porous nature allowed the shelter to breathe, preventing moisture buildup and rot. This simple design, using local materials, ensured the family inside stayed protected from cold and damp. At the heart of the home was the hearth. Though now only faintly glowing, it had once been the center of life in the shelter. Its warmth was more than physical, it represented community. It was the gathering place where the family came together, meals were prepared, stories were shared, and a sense of safety prevailed. Without the hearth, the shelter would have been cold and empty. With it, the shelter came alive, a place where life continued in comfort. Tonight, the hearth is quiet, yet its presence is still felt. The fire may have faded, but the effort that went into feeding it, the wood gathered, the careful tending, is a reminder of the constant work survival demanded. The warmth it provided was essential, not merely comfortable. Medieval farmers understood this fully and built their homes with this knowledge, knowing survival in harsh winters relied on a steady fire. Tomorrow, the shelter will require attention. More wood will need gathering, repairs will need completing, and daily tasks must continue. The work of survival is unending. But for tonight, the shelter stands firm, and for tonight, you are safe. The storm has passed, the cold held at bay, and you rest in the certainty that your shelter is fulfilling its purpose, protecting you. Outside, snow falls gently, the world quiet and still. Inside, there is peace. You close your eyes, comforted by the resilience of the shelter and the assurance that it will remain to keep you warm, safe, and sheltered whenever the outside world grows harsh. The storm is behind you. The shelter endures. The night stretches on, still and profound, as snow continues to blanket the land. The storm has become memory, leaving a serene quiet. Snowflakes fall rhythmically, reflecting the soft light of the moon. Within the shelter, the hearth's embers are now little more than glowing remnants, yet their warmth lingers. The home remains steadfast against the cold, standing as it always has. Tonight, the shelter offers more than a roof. It provides security and peace, the quiet reassurance that the storm has passed and the home has performed its duty. The thatch on the roof, the lea and daub walls, and the hearth, all were crafted with care and wisdom passed down through generations. Every choice, from materials to design, was made with survival in mind. Tonight, that careful work continues to protect you. The fire may no longer burn brightly, but its presence remains in the warmth of the walls, the air, and the shelter's very foundation. Without it, the home would be cold and lifeless. With it, the shelter becomes a place where life persists, even under nature's harshest conditions. As you rest, the faint memory of the fire's crackle eases you. The day's weight slips away. The storm tested the shelter, but it has not failed. The roof stands firm, the walls block the cold, and the hearth, though quiet, continues to provide a sense of security. You are safe, warm, and protected, And for now, that is enough. This shelter was never just a home. It was built for survival. Every element, from the roof to the walls to the hearth, ensured warmth, safety, and comfort. The medieval farmer did more than seek refuge from the cold. They created a home that allowed life to thrive despite it. They understood the land, worked with it, and built structures that reflected that knowledge. The shelter you now rest in is a testament to that wisdom, enduring storms and time alike, providing exactly what was needed to survive. Tomorrow will bring more work. The roof will need inspection, firewood must be gathered, and the animals tended. The labor of survival is never truly done. Yet for tonight, the shelter stands firm. Wind may rise, snow may fall harder, but this home will endure. Its design, care, and the knowledge embedded in its construction allow you to rest easy, confident in your protection. The storm has passed. The shelter stands. For tonight, there is peace. As the night stretches on and the world remains quiet, you know the home will always be there, offering warmth and safety as it always has. Sweet dreams, and may tomorrow bring renewed strength for the work ahead.